Good morning. Happy Labor Day Monday. Welcome in to 104.5 The Zone. Glad to be with you with much to discuss on this Labor Day weekend. A glorious weekend of college football to open week one, and we're still in it. We had games last night. We've got a big one tonight. Watching Bill Belichick on the sidelines for the first time. We have a lot to react to. We have a lot to preview, and we're glad to have you with us. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. Lucas Panzica with you, hanging out until 1 o'clock. Buck is still gallivanting in Europe. Believe he's making his way back today. Robert Walsh, a newly engaged man, not here today. He deservedly is taking some time with his lovely fiancée, Cheyenne. He will be back tomorrow. And we've got Ross at the controls, and we're hanging out until 1. Ross, good morning. Hope you enjoyed your football weekend.
Good morning, Lucas. It was special. It was very special, and just happy to have some football back on Saturdays, starting to get it back on Sundays this weekend, too. It's going to be a fun season.
You can jump in on the F&M Bank chat, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I see it filling up now. Appreciate you guys being here. Happy to be laboring on this Labor Day. And I'll tell you, man, there are some fan bases laboring on this Monday after the college football weekend that was. So Robert will be back tomorrow. Do you think that he, when he got down on one knee, had a whole speech, or do you think he just got right to the point?
I think he got right to the point. Now, do you think like he pulled a Trevor Lawrence where the knee isn't touching the ground, or do you think he got all the way down?
Was that a thing with Trevor Lawrence? I don't seem to remember that.
It was. He got engaged on Clemson's field, I remember, and his knee was not all the way down, so they said he was running a fake.
No fakes from Robert. He's locking that down, and smartly so. Cheyenne is an awesome lady. She puts up with him every day, and don't tell him this, but she's funnier than he is. So can't wait to talk to Robert and get the whole engagement story. He's getting all the congratulations in the F&M Bank chat. So happy for both of them as they got engaged in North Carolina over the weekend. Been a long time coming. They've been living together at this point since I've known the man, since he stepped foot in this studio when they moved to Nashville. So very happy for Robert Walsh. Speaking of Trevor Lawrence proposing on the field at Clemson, Clemson fans, among the disappointed, the legions of disappointed this weekend, but they don't even come close to topping the list. Tennessee's fan base, not one of those teams. So here's the drill today. We're going to talk about the college football weekend. We want to hear from you. Again, 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. Ramon Foster joins us coming up after his Vol Network debut in the booth next to Mike Keith. Oh, it was so good to hear those guys calling the game. TV volume down, radio volume up, matched up with the TV image, and it sounded like they had been doing it together for years because they kind of have in one way or another with Titans radio. And I think it's going to take some getting used to for some fans. For those Vols/Titans fans out there, just to wrap your head around, not just Mike and Mac in a Vol Network booth, or Mike and Mac, see, this is what I'm talking about. Mike and Ramon in a Vol Network booth, but Larry Stone, the game day host, who essentially started Titans radio from the ground up and was the game day host on Titans radio for so many years. So it'll take some getting used to, but unsurprisingly, those guys knocked it out of the park. Absolute pros with the energy needed for what was about as good of a start as you could have hoped for Tennessee's offense. For Tennessee's offense. We're going to talk about some things on the defensive side of the ball. Injuries had something to do with that as well. But I'll say this, I would much rather, as a Tennessee alum, be coming away from that game against Syracuse, 45-26, the final. I would much rather be coming away saying the offense shined. It far exceeded even the highest of expectations for Joey Aguilar's debut. Defense has some things to clean up. I much prefer having that takeaway than if it was the other way around. Than if it was defense was fantastic. Defense upheld the standard from last year, but man, offense needs some work. Tennessee's defense, I expect to have a similar standard to last season. They're not as deep on the defensive line, and that was tested on Saturday. They obviously lost some key pieces. They were without some key pieces going into that game. Jermon McCoy, who could very well be a first-round draft pick, could very well be the first corner taken in the upcoming draft, still not available for this team. David Hobbs up front, the defensive lineman, was not available. And then Nathan Robinson is a game wrecker early on. He leaves the game. Jackson Moy leaves the game. And suddenly your D-line depth, which is not quite as deep as it was last year, is getting tested far earlier than you would like. Ricky Gibson at corner leaves the game in the first half. So we're going to talk about what we saw from Tennessee's defense. Ramon will give his thoughts too. But Joey Aguilar, I mean, what more can you say? He picked up the Heupel offense coming in after spring practice after trying to take in the UCLA offense under Tino Sinceri. And we're going to get to UCLA, by the way. And Nico Iamaleava's terrible debut on Saturday against Utah in a blowout loss. Joey Aguilar in his first outing for Tennessee, 16 of 28, 247 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he scrambled around a bit as well, 6 carries for 34 yards. I don't think you could have asked for much better, and it's prompted a debate, Ross. Did Tennessee upgrade at the quarterback position? Too early to tell? We're going to talk about all of that throughout the course of the show. My biggest takeaway from week 1, disappointed fan bases. Quick vibe check here for the SEC fan bases after week 1. Ross, who would you say, following the first week of the college football season, is the SEC fan base with the highest level of vibes right now? Something that is hard to diagnose, something that you just judge based on feel. It's not a number. Where do you feel the vibe is the highest among SEC fan bases after the first week of the season?
I think it's close between LSU and South Carolina, but I will give the edge to LSU because they finally got over this week 1 hump that seems to be following them the past few years with Brian Kelly, and got a big win at Clemson. And I saw a video of some of their fans that had traveled celebrating on the Clemson field after the game. Their social media team put out a great video about all the doubters saying that they were going to lose. So I think LSU is riding pretty high this Monday.
Yeah, not smashing tables on Saturday. Brian Kelly, very happy man after his first week 1 win as the head coach at LSU. LSU wins in week 1 for the first time since that championship winning season in 2019. It took a second half bounce back effort to get there. Defense dominant, shutting out Clemson in the second half on the road. Garrett Nussmeier growing into the game and leading LSU to a win. I agree with you. LSU fans have to feel the best after getting that monkey off their back to open up the season. South Carolina is a good shout by you, winning yesterday over Virginia Tech. I think South Carolina fans are coming into the season with sky-high expectations and would have liked to see a little bit more comprehensive of a victory, right? 24-11, and essentially they're bailed out by an 80-yard punt return for a touchdown, which was electric. But this game probably was a little bit closer. South Carolina probably struggled offensively more than their fans would have liked, although Lenora Sellers showed some of the things that make Lenora Sellers one of the most exciting quarterbacks in the entire country, let alone the SEC this year, specifically that 16-yard touchdown. Houdini stuff by Sellers at the end of the game, really to ice it, spinning out of a sack and running it in for South Carolina to pull away. They're up there. I think Auburn fans have to be up there in the top 3. Because of all the negativity in the offseason, taking Auburn into that week 1 game at Baylor and Jackson Arnold running all over that Dave Aranda defense. Auburn off to a fine start, and Tennessee, of course, has to be in the conversation of the SEC fan bases feeling the best. Is it hyperbolic to say, like, I know you grew up in kind of a Tennessee-centric family. You're not yourself necessarily a Vols fan, but you've kept up with the program. Is it hyperbolic for me to say that watching the Tennessee offense Saturday, that the offense hasn't looked like that with the rhythm and the tempo, the timing, the explosiveness with the downfield passing game, hasn't looked like that since the 2022 season?
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. I haven't seen them hit a deep shot like that really since 2022. That deep ball from Joey to Braylon Staley, I believe that deep post hit him in stride. It was beautiful to watch. I mean, they came out hot. I thought Heupel called a great game offensively. I thought Tim Banks called a great game defensively as well. And, you know, they were clicking on all cylinders. They ran for nearly 300 yards. Joey looked like he'd been there, you know, for 3 years already. So it was very impressive to see that.
Yeah, and Tennessee wins 45-26. And when I say that the offense hasn't looked that way since 2022, don't hear that and hear me saying Tennessee's going to win as many games as they did in 2022, because that's not what I'm saying. Different years, Tennessee can come up with different struggles, and week 1 can be a liar. We've seen plenty of week 1s in Tennessee football recent history alone that have completely lied to us about what it's going to mean for the remainder of the season. We're going to see what happens with Syracuse down the stretch. We're going to see what more Tennessee has to overcome in terms of the challenges it'll face later down the stretch. But we've talked about it. It's a manageable schedule, and it's hard to ask for much better of a debut for Joey Aguilar. There are some fan bases feeling bad on this Labor Day Monday. They may be off work, but they are still sulking. Alabama chief among them. Texas up there as well. Brutal debut for Arch Manning, starting debut, although I say that. He started a couple of games last year, but we understand the way the hype has built up around Arch Manning. In the shoe, he was dreadful. And we're going to talk about the most disappointing performances of week one, because I feel like that's kind of the headline, and maybe that's very Buck of me to do, to have the biggest takeaway from a glorious weekend of college football to be the fan bases that are most upset. But as the dust settles on it, and we still have North Carolina TCU to come tonight, that's kind of where I am, where I feel like my biggest takeaway from week one is the amount of fan bases that are crashing down with expectations coming into the season, with Alabama and Texas at the top of that heap. The F&M Bank chat is where you can jump in. Robert Stafford on YouTube says, I think Joey threw high when he was under pressure and rushed his throws. Need to work on that for sure. Wasn't perfect, Joey Aguilar. There were some things there where he was a little hot with some of his, not even just deep ball throws. He overthrew a couple of players. He dealt with some drops as well. There are some instances where both can be true, where he put the ball a touch too high and it still hit a receiver's hands and they have to hang on. So week one kinks that Tennessee will continue to work out, but 45 points in week one. And I don't think even the most optimistic Tennessee fan would have predicted that. Brian Callahan will speak with the media at 11 o'clock. We will carry that presser live as it is week one of the NFL season. We've got Cowboys and Eagles on Thursday Night Football. We've got Titans and Broncos on Sunday afternoon. Can't wait to have it for you on Titans Radio, right here, of course, on The Zone. So we'll hear from Brian Callahan in hour two. SEC Michael Bratton will join us in hour three as well. Loaded show, tons to talk about, but Ramon Foster, after his Vol Network debut, is next on 104.5 The Zone. Oh, it sounded so good. Mike Keith and Ramon Foster. For the first time in the booth, Tennessee's 45-26 win over Syracuse. Ramon joins us in studio. Can we actually, Ross, can we run that back one more time? That by the way, that's the first sack of the game for Tennessee. 1 of 5 sacks on the night, or on the morning, I should say. Arion Carter getting home. Let's run that back one more time real quick. Sorry, one more? Can we get it one more? What is that, Moan? Is that Ramon Foster? Yeah. Ross, hit us one more time. Oh, I felt that. I felt that in the moment.
Yeah, because that's probably what the quarterback, Stephen Jelly, felt on the other side of it, too. Because I'm trying to find my balance and my points of entry when it comes down, Lucas, to when do I yell? Because that's the part that I've heard the most from the fan base is we want the excitement. We want to hear you be a fan. And I'm just like, Mike's a pro. Let me make sure I don't step on an iconic call from time to time. But afterwards, even Mike was like, no, let it flow. Breathe. Like, go with it, man. But that little was...
I could feel it, man. It was bottled up, too. Yeah. That bottled up energy.
Lucas, speaking about, like, the game, though, what was so cool about it is when you saw him hit him he hit him like friggin' Bill Goldberg did in the old WWF days. You remember, like, that was one of the things I loved about it was the physicality of that hit. I remember us growing up, we used to try to like spear guys is what it was, the Bill Goldberg spear. Like on the game field in high school, like I'm aging myself a little bit, but like that was a thing. And to see him do that and the way he set that up, if you look at that play from Arion Carter, they were mugged up at the line of scrimmage, faking as if they were showing a blitz. Arion Carter fake drops, hitting what we like to call the okie-doke, and then rushes up the middle perfectly and timed him up, and Steve Angeli ate that one, and all you heard was, That was good.
Oh, man.
I knew you were going to be petty a little bit, man.
Look, but that's what people want. People want that energy, and they got it with you guys in the booth, man. Just how good did it feel? Did it just feel like you guys hit the ground running? It's such a unique situation, right, where it's this new pairing in the Vol Network booth for Tennessee football, but you guys have worked together. Larry Stone and the connection that he has with Mike, obviously the relationship with Brent Hubbs and you guys, you and Swain, former teammates. Like there's all of these ties in the booth, even if it's the first time that you guys are all together up there. It just didn't sound like it, man. Did it feel that way once that light came on?
A little bit, because you want to be, I don't want to say be a perfectionist on it, but you want to do the job and you want to do it right. I got comfortable, and even Mike told me that a little bit yesterday. We got a podcast coming out today, a recap. Foster Focus is the name of it. So
where can folks find it?
They can find it on the University of Tennessee Sports YouTube page, and I'm sure we're going to tweet out the link and everything else, too, just a recap of the past week. And he's going to have other guests on there, too, but Foster Focus is a part of our conversation that I did yesterday. But I wanted to get my footing. I wanted to make sure Mike had the ability to set it up and give it to the people because, again, I'm there to give a breakdown. Mike is to set the play up. And the offenses, man, were running so fast. We had one particular guy, and I love critiques too, which is fine, say, can you guys do more breaking down of the plays? And I was just like, I tweeted him back during the game. It's like, we have no time. Like, we have no time to break down the plays until we get a break, because not only was the Vol offense working fast, but on the other side of it, because Syracuse was behind the 8 ball, they were also working fast and at the line of scrimmage. So the recall on the plays went there. But once we got a feel for it, yeah, it did feel natural. It did feel fun. It was fun. I told Mike, I was like, this is like sitting on the back porch during the game, and we're just talking and speaking about plays of plays. So I was fun. Our teammate and my brother, Ron Slay Savage, he texted me after the game, and he's mentioned it before. You know, some people want to make you aware of certain situations. He was like, do you see how big this is now? Because for me, I was just like, oh, I'm just doing the thing. And I did. So all the congratulations and all the shout-outs that we got, and hopefully everybody enjoyed it as much as they said they did. I thoroughly enjoyed it. My neighbors were hitting me up. It's like, hey, we're syncing the game up with the radio right now. So that was for a first one. To also get a dub with so much newness that Vols team has right now, man, that was a cool place to be at on Saturday. I'll say this, too. Vol Nation, y'all got to stand up. And I know Atlanta has a huge Vols following. I know that a lot of my teammates are from there. I legitimately heard that it was like a homecoming, like a reunion that was going on. At the end of the third quarter, they met at like gate 120 and just had a big alumni powwow, Lucas. They showed up in Atlanta, and that was really cool. It wasn't sold out, but it sounded and felt like it, man, from the Vols' perspective.
And what a good problem to have for you as the color analyst to not have that much time to get in and out between plays on offense, right? Like if Louis Riddick didn't have that much time on the TV call, it's a whole other animal on radio.
It is.
I don't know, Moan, it doesn't feel like Tennessee's radio analyst has had that problem for the last 2 years to the level that Tennessee fans would want them to with that up-tempo offense. How about this irony of losing Nico Iamaleava and the drama that came with it and the talent downgrade at quarterback that was perceived to be. And look, from a talent, athleticism perspective, probably still is with Joey Aguilar. And yet Joey Aguilar does something in his first start that Nico Iamaleava, if we're being honest, didn't do at any point against a Power 4 opponent last year.
He didn't, in my opinion, like fully take over a game. Even in the UT Chat game last year. That was the Dylan Sampson show. That was the offensive line bodying guys up and down the field, the defense doing their thing. We didn't get that moment, I felt like, in totality with Nico last year. To your point, you mentioned the speed of the game. Like, if we are on our broadcast on Vol Network, and if you listen to us on 104.5 The Zone, and we can't give you what you're looking for, that means the offense is doing good. That means they're at the line of scrimmage and they're setting the play up, and Mike is in his spiel of right to left. Like, he's giving you that. The recalls, and I got my notebook here that I'm writing down notes of so I can remember what happened on certain plays and the circumstances of why the next play happened. But it was fun, Lucas, to say you didn't have time to breathe, especially when you talk about guys that needed to step up too. To see the game, I'll say this, start off with a pass to Mike Matthews was a breath of fresh air to me. We've been talking about him for how long, Lucas? I think it was a real threat potential of him jumping into the portal this past offseason because his involvement in the offense. Now, he only had 2 catches for 25 yards, but it wasn't his day. But the good thing that you have is you know that the talent is there for him. You know that if it's not Braylon Staley's day or Chris Brazzell, then you know Mike Matthews is going to be able to answer that call. I was glad to see Coach Heupel and his staff, Joey Halsley, make those players be important, while also having a quarterback that could deliver when you needed them to. And Joey Aguilar wasn't perfect. I know you were probably watching at home, just like, you got to make that throw. Heck, I was saying the same thing. And he acknowledged it after the game, too, that he needed about 3 or 4, maybe 5 passes back. But you see what it could look like is what I was most encouraged by.
Ramon Foster hanging out after his Vol Network debut. Joey Aguilar's Tennessee debut, 45-26 over Syracuse. Flying high on offense, Tennessee outgaining the Orange 495-377. The run game on point, all 3 running backs getting work. Tennessee rushed for 240. I mean, talk about balance. Yeah. 248 on the ground, 247 in the air. And to your point on some of the misses from Aguilar, you're talking about like a little too much juice, right? Maybe a touch too high, as opposed to in the last couple of years, Moan, 7-8 yards in front of the receiver is kind of the overthrow situation that Tennessee had in the offense. What impressed you most about the way that he just kind of led the unit with the first time doing so, understanding the challenge that was in front of him of having to learn this offense starting in the summer? It
was that part of the learning of the offense. I think seeing him operate that at level 1, level 2, and down the field was impressive for him. The other part for me, as far as Joey Aguilar is concerned, is his ability to operate in the pocket. He didn't get nervous. He didn't have happy feet. When it was time for him to run, he did. That was something that I was looking forward to from him, because you got to say to yourself, there's got to be a way for him to make this offense even for himself. And I was thinking about him like, he's not a big guy. He's slender. You see him move around on his tape from Appalachian State. And I was thinking the athleticism. By the way, any quarterback that's playing football in today's game got to have some level of athleticism. So I was encouraged, or at least in my mind, I was saying he's going to use his legs. And we got that from him. You mentioned the 248 yards rushing. Heck, he had 34 of it. And when you're smart with your legs, I want to protect his shoulders and his body and stuff like that. But that's what I was most impressed with. And then you also throw into the fact that before the game, I'm thinking, as Brent Hubbs said, over bacon and eggs and a couple of pancakes, okay, or an omelet, whatever it was. You have to make a reshuffle of your offensive line because David Sanders Jr. is unavailable to you. We're talking about Jesse Perry at right guard. Wendell Moore, who was supposed to play left guard, is at right guard. Sam Pendleton was the only mainstay there. Sham Rumarov at left, and Lance Hurd at left tackle. To trust those guys up front and to have confidence that they are going to do their job. And here's the thing. He stayed in the pocket and delivered the football at times that it showed Lucas the poise of a guy that you need in that moment. And again, I say this, and it's probably overstated, but screw it. To just have learned an offense, to be in a real competition with Jake Merkling, I think really, because I know he's a favorite in that locker room, but also knowing that the talent of George McIntyre behind you, we can probably say, yeah, he was probably slated to win it because of the cash that he received, but he looked like he earned it this past weekend.
You mentioned the offensive line performance, and understanding this Syracuse team and what they were up against in the offseason, how much they had to replace. I've seen Tennessee week 1 performances be a liar before, right? And ironically,
right.
In that same venue, well, Mercedes-Benz Stadium and also the Georgia Dome, right? That Chick-fil-A, quote-unquote, that week 1 kickoff in Atlanta. You think back to that NC State game in 2012 where Tyler Braze just bombs away on that NC State defense. The Georgia Tech overtime win with Butch Jones in 2017. Those didn't turn out to be good seasons for Tennessee football. So we can't make these, overarching determinations. We need to see what Syracuse is going to be down the stretch. But you can only play who's in front of you.
Right. And
for this offensive line to morning of find out they're not going to have their right tackle and have to go out there with essentially their plan B in week 1 of Jesse Perry at right tackle, you got to be pretty optimistic, right? Coming away with how the offensive line performed in the way that they dominated on the way that you should expect them to dominate in a situation like that.
Absolutely. And here's the other part of it, too, is for the first time, Coach Glenn Ellerbe has somewhat played guys that he's recruited and he's developed. Sham Rumarov being one of those guys that he's helped develop over the last couple of years. Jesse Perry, who put on, I think they said 50-plus pounds, maybe more in the offseason. Like when I first saw him coming out of high school versus I saw him earlier this summer when I went up for an official visit, I was just like, dude, who are you? His neck, he's bigger, he's stronger, and he also trained at guard more than he did at tackle, but to have that flexibility, as they say sometimes, to cross-train, to be in a position to where those guys are available at almost any position, to get a transfer in Wendell Moore, to play left guard, also start at right guard, man. I thought there was great balance on that one, but it also shows, to your point, the work that those guys have put in. The exit of the quarterback in the spring, man, we heard it, and it's all peaches and creams and cliches, right, Lucas, when we speak about, oh, this team is tighter, oh, they took that personal, or Miles Kitzman and everything that he said. It's week 1, one game. I don't know what Fran Brown and the Syracuse Orangemen are. You stated that too. But it did look like it, Lucas. It did look like they bonded together. I mentioned Mike Matthews, and you know how much of a diva wide receivers at any level can be. Heck, I've seen high school wide receivers be divas. What I didn't see from him was this. I didn't see selfishness. I saw him on that big star Thomas run, blocking guys down the field. I saw other guys doing the dirty work when it comes down to making sure this team is being successful. And we're saying all of this and ain't even mentioned the support that the defense had. There was a turnover, and the defense ended up making a sudden change and got contributions from guys who are other development guys. Nathan Robinson. I shouted him out because I'm a small-town kid myself, and Greenbrier, you'll miss it if you don't know where it's at, right? I'm not sure if you've even been up there, Lucas, but it's such a small town with a small school, and you have a guy like him that had to come in a pinch that probably wasn't going to play much as he did until other guys got injured. Jackson Moy got injured. And he made plays on that sack fumble to where Colton Hood scooped and scored for a touchdown. Heupel took a lot of criticism coming to the SEC. The circus offense, the gimmicky offense, can he recruit? What is this defense going to look like? And for the last, you got to give it to him 2-3 years, heck, 5 years that he's been there. He's answered, I feel like, more of the negativity or concerns than he's actually let pass, even the dealings of what happened this spring with Nico. A lot of people side-eyed that, and at least in the first week, a one-to-one comparison, people have been joking. It looked like he wanted a divorce. It's week 1. I got to reiterate that. I'm keeping my powder. Yeah. It's not going to be soppy, as Robert Walsh like to say.
That powder ain't wet, not quite.
Powder not wet.
By the way, Robert Walsh, newly engaged. What do you think? Ross and I were having the discussion. Do you think he had like a long, drawn-out speech prepared, or do you think he got right to the point?
You know what? I think it was long and drawn out for one particular reason. He's a big old Care Bear.
Oh,
I know he
yeah.
cried.
Oh, yeah.
I know he cried, Lucas. We can bash him now because he's taking time off to celebrate it. But I bet you, boy, they had to retouch his makeup, man.
I bet my life savings on Robert Wall shed some tears over the weekend, man. You're right. He's a big softie, but we love him.
We love that guy, man.
I can't wait to hear about it tomorrow. But Ramon Foster hanging out in studio. You mentioned Nathan Robinson on the Vols D-line, the redshirt freshman. I thought he was the most disruptive player up front for Tennessee in that first half. And then he picks up a knock, and he's coming in and out of the game. Jackson Moy picks up an injury. They're already without David Hobbs. They're already without Jermon McCoy in the secondary. Next thing you know, Ricky Gibson is out at the end of the first half. So when you look at some of the defensive struggles, because Syracuse kind of claws back into the game, and they convert 3 fourth downs. All 3 of those drives ended up in touchdowns.
I hated that.
Yeah, and I don't know how much that's going to happen this season. If you get 1 or 2 fourth down stops there, and there was one where Boo Carter had Steve Angeli dead to rights, and he's able to spin away and find his tight end, and that drive ends in a touchdown. You take away 1 or 2 of those fourth down conversions, Moan, and this scoreline looks completely different. But the state of this defense right now, how much do they need to get back to full health? And how big of how nice is it to have a bit of a respite this week against ETSU to try to do that before Georgia comes to town?
Oh, no doubt. Just looking at it, you speak about that defensive side of the ball. That's concerned. Now, I'm asking questions because they don't have to tell us in college. Tyree West availability. You speak about guys up the middle, man. Of course, Dominic Bailey, Bryson Easton being in a position they were this past weekend, having to find in the trenches depth. I think it's got to be something that's got to be on the forefront of it, too. And it was the first week. If I was, guessing, it seemed like Arian Carter went for an IV probably in the middle of the game. I do look at Jackson Moy's situation, and some would say I feel like a decision was made to keep him out more than he couldn't play, just because I think they felt good about where the game could go at that moment. And to start the game off, though, Lucas, I will say, I felt like the front four was simply beating Syracuse's offensive line till you watch them go back more than forward. But health is the concern for me. Who's going to step up if those guys are out, or what does Coach Rodney Garner have as far as depth goes with those dudes keeping that pace? What I did not like was Syracuse's ability to keep pace as far as running the ball, and they had just over 100 yards. But their ability to keep pace and extend drives on 2nd and short, 3rd and 4, I did not like that at all, especially when they ran with a little bit of tempo. You got to have somebody, and maybe that's Jackson Moy because he was out, or Bryson Easton got to be in a position to be able to do that, Dominic Bailey. You need negativity up the middle more than just being able to send heat. I want to see those dudes win. That is one concern that I kind of want to see grow up a little bit more.
Who or what impressed you most outside of Joey Aguilar?
It's probably got to be, Colton Hood. The transfer from Colorado who was previously at Auburn, too.
Corner,
yes. He was by far, he showed out. Jalen McMurray, we've spoken about him too. You got to think, we're speaking about the secondary, and we're without a potential first-round draft pick at this point, and Jermon McCoy. But watching Colton Hood adjustment to what the referees were allowing, they allowed both sides. I thought Syracuse and the Vols to play close and play violent and be touchy and grabby. And he was Johnny on the spot. I'm not sure how many DBUs or he had, but he was good on the sideline against a Syracuse group that has some talent at the wide receiver position. Man, we're talking about guys with Justice Ross Simmons, who's coming out and said he's going to have 1,000 yards, or just the multitude of other guys that make plays for them in a game that it was so many unknowns in. But I was highly impressed with Colton Hood, most definitely.
Led the team in PBUs.
He did.
With 3, and then obviously the scoop and score on the fumble.
He showed up, man. Love that. And I got to give a shout-out again for the adjustments that the bigs made, and namely Jesse Perry. No sacks for the offensive line. 3 touchdowns, over 200 and how many yards? 247 yards passing. And no sacks with a breakfast adjustment at a 12 o'clock kickoff. Going from guard to tackle ain't easy. It is a different fight. You got faster guys off the edge. there's so much manipulation that does happen from outside rushers. And to see those dudes stand up was legit. And they were physical as hell. They were.
Appreciate you laboring and a little bit extra here on this Labor Day.
Absolutely, man. Lucas, anytime you call, I'm here for you. Others actually, it's a different conversation. But for Lucas Panzica.
You gallivants off to Europe. Week 1 of college football. Can you imagine?
Listen, man, some people do and others don't, man. But nah, he's supposed to. He take his day because we get him.
Yeah, it did look like a good time. I'm sure we'll hear about it.
I wasn't impressed.
Ramon Foster, hear him this weekend on the Vol Network call against ETSU and 6 to 10 every morning right here on The Zone. Ramon and Will. Appreciate you, man.
No doubt. Anytime, Luke.
A lot of Vols fans turned their TVs on pretty late last night, and I imagine stayed up to watch what happened on Fox between UCLA and Utah. We'll talk about Nico's performance next. So I know many of you probably spent hours on the couch taking in college football all Saturday. Great week one action across the board. Tennessee early with that win against Syracuse in Atlanta. I watched the game at home. I had to leave in the afternoon to head to Geodis Park to broadcast the Nashville SC game against Atlanta here on the Zone. I get home from Geodis Park 11-ish. And Ross, welcome back. Ross at the controls. Lucas Panzica with you until 1 o'clock. Buck and Bert will be back tomorrow. And we'll be live at Titan's house. So looking forward to that. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. And Brian Callahan is coming up at the top of the 11 o'clock hour for his week one press conference. We'll get to that in a few minutes. So I get home around 11 o'clock last night, Ross. I flip on Fox coverage of the UCLA-Utah game. And I kid you not. What are they talking about when I turn it on? Connor Onion and Mark Helfrich were on the call of this game. They're talking about Nico Iamaleava and his struggles with the deep ball, with the overthrows. And I said, oh, is that the kind of night that it's been? And it was. Hours after Joey Aguilar's debut, going 16-28 for 247 and 3 touchdowns, leading Tennessee's offense to 45 points and a 3-score win over Syracuse. Nico, 11 of 22, 147 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Mark Helfrich at one point, the former Oregon head coach, the analyst on this game, said, and I quote, after one of those Nico misses, not even on a deep ball, because there were misses of every kind, screen passes, check downs, quick balls, quick outs, going over the middle of the field, too high, behind the receiver, you name it. Just didn't feel like he was in rhythm. He was sacked 4 times. He wasn't feeling the pressure. The interception at the end of the game, just trying to force something in there for a receiver not ready for it, right into the arms of a linebacker. Tough day for Nico Iamaleava. And I hear Mark Helfrich say these words. That's the throw he can make in his sleep, and fans want to see it. And it's just deja vu from multiple points last season. And this isn't to rewrite history and say that Nico Iamaleava was terrible from start to finish last year, because he wasn't. That's not the tune Vols fans were singing at the end of the year. There were limitations. There were accuracy issues. It didn't feel like Tennessee maximized its offense last year. But there were also times where that ceiling, that crazy high talent ceiling of Nico Iamaleava flashed in a really big way. In the second half against Alabama, right? In some of the moments where he led Tennessee down the field against some of their weaker opponents, just the way the ball's coming out of his hand, the athleticism, running the football. So I don't want to hear Tennessee fans rewrite history and say Nico was dreadful all of last year, because you weren't saying that until he transferred. But I think it is fair to say that Nico at no point against a Power 4 opponent last year looked like Joey Aguilar did in terms of the comfortability of running the offense against Syracuse. And it was a tough night in front of a half-empty Rose Bowl.
You know what? You asked me in the first segment who I think is riding the highest this Monday, SEC fans. I said LSU and then South Carolina. I might switch that, honestly, and put Tennessee number 2 just because of the UCLA game on top of the great performance from Aguilar and the Vols. I think it was one of those days where it's like you got 2 games you're equally as excited or interested maybe to watch, and they both went exactly the way you would probably hope for as a Tennessee fan.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows how long that'll be sustained this year if Joey can play like that the rest of the year. But as far as Nico goes, I think that was just one game, but it was certainly validation for Tennessee fans everywhere.
Well, and we have to keep coming back to the point. It's week 1, right? And Tennessee played a Syracuse team that we'll see what they are, right? There's a scenario where Syracuse figures it out. It's a talented team on offense with what they brought in the portal. I think Fran Brown's a good coach. He's a defensive-minded coach. They play with toughness. They're replacing a ton from last year. There is a scenario where Syracuse figures it out and is a competent team that, is a tough out in the ACC this year, can maybe get close to that 10-win range that they were in last year. There's also a scenario where Syracuse doesn't come together with the roster built in the portal and has the 5-7 type of season that has us at the end of the year saying, okay, well, maybe that 3-score win over Syracuse in week 1 wasn't as impressive as we thought it was on Labor Day Monday. And meanwhile, Nico and UCLA played a Utah team that looks like it's going to be right there in Big 12 contention. Just a dominant performance. Like, Kyle Whittingham in Utah didn't go anywhere. I feel like Utah perpetually, in the last few years, has been contending for whatever conference they're in, whether it's Pac-12 or Big 12. And then last year, we kind of forgot about Utah. Like, Kyle Whittingham's still there. That team's going to push for what is a wide-open Big 12 this year. So degree of difficulty in opponent, I'd argue it was tougher for UCLA than it was for Tennessee. But, yeah, to your point, if you're a Tennessee fan that was excited to wake up on Saturday, hopeful watch Joey Aguilar, and then hate watch Nico, they couldn't have gone better for you.
Well, I'm saying, like, I know it was just one play, right? Just one play. He had plenty of other good plays, but the deep ball to Braylon Staley, I mean, how many times have you watched Joe Milton overthrow somebody or Nico just not be able to hit on a deep ball either? Since Hendon Hooker's the last quarterback that is just like, man, he throws it up and you're just seeing the camera pan across the field and almost expecting it to hit. And Joey did that on Saturday, and it was like, man, what, you couldn't have thrown a better football.
Put it to a poll. At Lucas Panzica is where you can vote. We'll update the polls at the end of the show. The offensive performance against Syracuse was Tennessee's best since when? Because I don't think we've seen a deep ball touchdown like that, again, against a Power 4 opponent since the 2022 season. So this is going to be a theme all season, right? It is what it is. Tennessee fans are going to be keeping up with what Nico's doing, and vice versa, by the way. UCLA fans, the ones that are out there, are going to be keeping up with the guy that they kicked to the curb in Joey Aguilar and how he's doing at Tennessee versus their $1 million man, 5-star Nico Iamaleava. There is still time here, and Nico is a talented player that is still getting settled in with the new offense and new surroundings and all of these things. But Nico is heading down this path where he is someone that we're talking about more as a cautionary tale than someone that we're talking about because of what he's doing on the field. And I get sort of stuck, Ross, in this place when we're talking about these college kids, because there's this one side of it where it's like they're kids, they're 18 to 20, 21-year-old kids. And then there's the other side where they're millionaires and they're making millionaire decisions. Some are good decisions, some are bad decisions, a lot of decisions that are influenced, especially in the case of Nico, by the people around them. So it can be hard, I think, as a fan to walk that line of, I don't want to say having pity, but having empathy for a kid that clearly has all of this influence and pressure around him and is making a kind of money that he was nowhere close to making even a couple of years ago, versus saying if they're making grown man money, then they need to be held accountable after making grown man decisions. And that's kind of where it is with Nico. You couldn't draw up a worse debut for Nico Iamaleava at UCLA. You couldn't draw up a better debut for Joey Aguilar at Tennessee. And that's the takeaway from week one. And both can reverse that trend in one way or another down the stretch this season. But I just keep coming back to that Nico is on that path of being more cautionary tale than college football star quarterback.
I forget who sent it in the chat on Saturday night, but the UCLA Barstool tweeting, Nico overthrows may kill me, and just all the replies were like Tennessee fans just saying like, yeah, we tried to tell you about that one.
That's going to be all season. That's going to be all season. So we'll see what happens. UCLA, again, like all the things that Nico Iamaleava and his camp said on the way out, whether it was the offense, the scheme, the playmakers, wanting to be back home. That's the UCLA team that was picked to finish, I think, second to last in the Big Ten. So they got to go to UNLV in Vegas. That's not an easy out, man. That's a Dan Mullen coach team that was on the cusp of the college football playoff a year ago. So we'll see what happens. It is week one of the NFL season. Brian Callahan meets with Titans media. Coming up next, we'll carry it for you live on 104.5 The Zone.
Game on. Week one starts now, and every touchdown brings you closer to a payout with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. This isn't just football. It's first touchdown fireworks, anytime TD rushes, and live bets that ride every momentum shift. We've got Bill Belichick's first game as the head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels, and he's an underdog at home. You can get the Tar Heels at plus 3.5 on DraftKings Sportsbook. The over-under set at 56.5. The Tar Heels on the money line at plus 136. At DraftKings, every play is your next shot to win. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789. 21 plus, Tennessee only. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. NFL Sunday Ticket offer for new subscribers only and auto renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use excluded. Restrictions apply. Additional NFL Sunday Ticket terms at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday Ticket/terms. Limited time offer.
It is week 1 of the NFL season. Titans-Broncos on Sunday. Welcome in hour 2 of the program on 104.5 The Zone, WGFX FM Gallatin, Nashville. Titans head coach Brian Callahan is meeting with the media at the facility now to kick off the week of practice leading up to Titans-Broncos Sunday afternoon, and we go live to the Titans head coach.
A hell of an opening environment. Spent a lot of years in Denver. I know exactly what that feels like, and it will be all of that. You know, they're excited about their football team, and they should be. So we're walking into a pretty adverse environment for week 1. So looking forward to it. Looking forward to the challenge. I think our team is up to the task, and we'll be ready to roll.
What can you do to get Cam prepared for such an environment? Because it's maybe unlike anything he's ever seen playing in college football.
Yeah, you turn the music up as loud as you can to practice. You just got to work through it. I mean, he's played in loud environments. It's not new. And generally speaking, it's not every single play. You know, it's usually the third downs and in the low red zone where it really amps up. But got to be on top of the silent cadence. Got to be on top of our operation. Make sure we're not putting ourselves in down in distances because of some false starts or miscommunication. So we got to be on top of those things. And really, you just emphasize it. You know, and he's going to figure it out as he goes.
Do you do anything special to get guys ready for the altitude, particularly guys who've not experienced it?
No, I mean with the short amount of time that we travel in and out of a city, it's there. It's a factor. It's part of playing up there. But you got to play through it, you know. And one of the things with our training camp is that, you know, it's been hot and humid, and we've conditioned every day, working towards this week 1, and with the idea that we got to be in better condition than we've been. And I think that we're in a pretty good spot when it comes to that.
Besides the environment, what are some of the things you do to get Cam ready just systematically and just offensively, just operation and all those types of things?
Well, just like any young quarterback, you want to do things that they're comfortable with, and you want to play fast. So we don't have you try not to reinvent the wheel getting ready for week 1 or any game for that matter, but certainly in week 1, you try to do all the things you've banked reps on in practices, in meetings. So there's not a lot of newness, so we can go play confident and play fast. That's the idea, especially when you got a young quarterback. You know, there's going to be plenty of things that he's going to see that maybe he hasn't seen, and he's got to manage those things, but from a defensive structure perspective. But at the end of the day, try to put him in position to play as fast as possible and as confident as possible on the road.
Did that start like from day 1, or like at what point did it kind of ramp up towards, hey, this is preparation for Denver?
You know, I think really every day probably in training camp is part of that process. But you start getting a little more into the game plan the last week or so, some things that are a little more specific to what we're going to do in this game. But, you know, a lot of it's still going to be the core of your offense and what you're good at. Every team's got a core. Every team's got things they execute well, and we're going to lean into those things as much as we can against a good defense on the road.
You spent the entire offseason, and I think it continued through training camp, tracking the pre-snap penalties and the self-inflicted negatives. Can you quantify for us how that?
I'd be happy to. Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, I mean, I think again, this is we're talking preseason, so it's certainly not predictive. Not trying to jump ahead of anything and say that this because we did this, we're going to continue that process. But it does give us some game analysis and quantitative data from actual football games. I think we were the least penalized offense in the preseason. I think we were in the top 10 least penalized defenses in the preseason. Our biggest issue, I think, numbers-wise, was we had a little more on special teams than we would have liked, but we got to get that improved. But I think we're one of the top 10 least penalized teams in the 3 preseason games. We had 0 fumbles offensively. We held on to the football. We only threw 4 interceptions. So we protected the ball the way we want to, and we extracted it. We had 2 forced fumbles, so that put us, I think, 6th in the league in the preseason. Had 2 interceptions. So we were, I think, about middle of the pack in the turnover and the extraction portion of the ball security. So those things showed up. Didn't have a lot of pre-snap issues. So all the things that we emphasized, it felt like that we got over the course of the preseason games. And again, so it doesn't get taken out of context. I'm not saying that that's going to carry over to the regular season, but it's good to see that what we emphasized showed up in real game action. So happy about those things and good to see those actual data points get verified for us. So that was good.
After all the emphasis on offensive line, since you've gotten here. How confident are you that you guys have kind of solved these issues, and what gives you the confidence that it's been solved?
Well, we've played well over the course of the training camp and preseason. That's the first thing. It's an earned confidence is always earned. I think we've earned some confidence there. But again, we're going to go face probably one of the premier fronts in football, and we're gonna find out. These guys are really, really good. They're good against the run. They rush the passer as good as anybody. So yeah, we got a real stiff test, and we're going to find out. But I feel good about where we're at. I think a lot of it's due to the work put in. You see that. We're a more talented group up front, I think, from positions 1 through 5. So looking forward to the test. I think it's going to be exciting.
You've talked about leadership, and players have talked about how they feel like leadership is better this year compared to last. How does that help you when you go on the road and you face maybe adversity in a week 1 game?
Well, just like anything, it's really easy to lead when things go well. The leadership shows up when you face those adverse spots, when maybe you have a series or two that doesn't go your way in one particular phase or the other. Maybe it's a couple of games, a month during the season. That's where your leadership shows up. And can you stay the course? Can you continue to do the things that you have to do to put yourself in position to win and not ride that roller coaster in the up and down? So we're a much more connected team. Our leadership in terms of the accountability portion to each other has really grown. Our ability to communicate with each other has shown up, I think, a lot more on the field, just in the normal communication part. That's part of leadership. So I feel really good about where we're at in that regard. The guys have worked hard at it. It's been a point of emphasis, just like all those other things I mentioned before. Leadership's a little bit less quantifiable than some of the data points, but it's one of those things you kind of know it when you see it, and I think we're in a much better place.
When you stopped counting, but was there an ultimate victorious team in your points deal? And
yep, the last chance to earn points was the last preseason game. So we did have a training camp winner. It was Team Cushenberry. They won. It was a tight battle. It was about 3 teams within each other, about 10 points of each other. So it was really good competition, and those guys really rose to the occasion, I think, over the buy-in from what we were asking for. So yeah, the Cushenberry's team, I think, took the training camp winner, and it was good, strong competition from the others around him.
Who were some of the guys on that team?
I'll get it to you. I'll let you know.
What can you learn about a team in week 1, and then also for you as a head coach, what's the anticipation like leading up to that first game when you think you know and you've done everything preparation wise? Now it's just they have to go.
That's really what it is. It's you're ready to see it all put on display. And sometimes it goes exactly like you think, and sometimes it goes entirely the opposite. And that's just the nature of week 1, I think, in general. I'm also very hesitant that I don't think week 1, as we all know, there's, whether you succeed or don't succeed in week 1 certainly doesn't have anything to do with the rest of your season. It's 1 week out of 17. I think you have to maintain that perspective. But I'm excited about it. You get an extra 2 weeks to think about it, and we'll be ready to roll. It's going to be a really tough test, and I'm looking forward to seeing how we respond.
Where do you feel like Snead, Cushenberry, and
Brian Callahan dropping off there. We'll see if we get the head coach's press conference stream back, previewing the week 1 opener at the Denver Broncos. The sins, the self-inflicted negatives, which has been a theme of the entire offseason program, all of training camp. Brian Callahan citing numbers that the Titans did not fumble during the preseason, citing the Titans as the least penalized offense during the preseason, as a top 10 least penalized defense. Special teams, though, as he mentioned, did pick up a few of those flags, some things to clean up there. So the coach had receipts there, but when you talk about the carryover from preseason to regular season, then that brings up a whole different discussion, right? Let's go back to Brian Callahan speaking with the media.
Pretty quickly here, and Lloyd's a real pro. He's a vet. He knows how to get ready. So this week will be big for him, obviously for both those guys to operate in the noise and the environment we're going to go into, but feel good about where they're at.
Was there a point where you went back and you looked at the tapes from uploading Burrow into the offense as you get ready to do the same with Cam, before this week? Was there a point where you go back to look at that, and what are some of the things that you may have miscalculated before that you learned for this go-around?
I don't know there's much we miscalculated, to be honest, and I don't mean that in an arrogant way. I think we had a pretty good plan for Joe there in Cincinnati. But I think what I said earlier, I think is really where it comes down to finding the things that the quarterback's confident in running, and we can play fast and play with confidence. And most of that has to do with just the bank reps over the course of the offseason and training camp. That's really the biggest thing is we're just trying to put him in a position to be as successful as possible in his first week. And a lot of that's going to have to do with just doing the things he knows and knows well, and operating a system. Try to keep it, as far as a volume perspective goes, something manageable, where he feels confident in it. And we have enough ammunition, for lack of a better term, but still be able to have a grasp of all of it and be able to execute when he needs to. So that's the biggest key, I think, for a young quarterback is that particular process. Whether it was Joe in 2020 or Cam here to open the season in 25, I think that process remained pretty similar.
Special teams was an Achilles heel last year, showed up in week 1. How confident with the changes are you that it'll be good this year?
Yeah, again, same thing. We're going to, just like the offensive line, we're going to see. We're going to find out. Excited about it, though. I think Bones has done a great job setting a special teams culture. I think we've improved our talent level, too, on special teams as well. I think we're deeper. I think we're younger and faster and all those things than we were a year ago. We're expecting some guys to play some pretty significant roles for us that are young players, which is good. That's what your special team should be built on. Feel good about where those guys are at. I've liked our execution so far over the course of training camp and in the off season. But it's just like anything else, we got to go prove it. Until we do it, we haven't. So I'm looking forward to doing it.
You talked about your offensive end, and then Paul. You talked about your offensive line earlier. I'm curious, with the offensive unit as a whole, just from what you've seen training camp, preseason, what gives you confidence that you have kind of what you need around Cam to help give him the best chance to be successful?
Yeah, I still think it's in the same vein as those other questions that, we got to go prove it. We're going to find out. But that being said, the work these guys have put in, the way that we've practiced, their attention to detail, their execution over the course of this time makes me feel really good about what's around them. And, we're going to use all the players on our roster on game day. I mean, they're up on game day. We're going to use them and find a role for them. So I'm excited about the process. I'm excited about what these guys have put in. And then now all that's left to go is to go do it and prove it. And I'm looking forward to that.
Seems like Cam to Calvin might be your best thing, certainly, or your most explosive thing. If a defense is looking at that, defense as good as the Broncos certainly, and is hell bent on taking that away, that leaves you with what's next. How confident? Not confident's not the right word, but you envisioning that's a potpourri as the alternative to that, or does somebody have to emerge as the next guy? How's that work?
Yeah, I think someone has to. I mean, to sit here and say that we have they have to emerge. Someone's got to step up and make the plays. I feel good about the group of guys we have going into Denver. I like the work that we put in, but certainly we got some unproven players and we got some young players that have done it, that haven't done it yet. But I like where those guys are at, and we're going to use anybody that's up on game day. We're using. They're all going to have roles. We're going to make sure that they're in the right spots to have success. And again, we're a team that's in prove it mode right now, and all the things that we feel good about, we're going to have to go do and show it on game day, regardless of how good I feel about the process leading up to it. But I'm confident in the group we have, and I'm excited to go do it, and we just got to go do it.
Calvin said he sure hopes that's not the case. A guy of that level, you expect to find ways, no matter what they're doing, to take.
Yeah, that's my job. My job is to find opportunities for those guys and find ways to get them the ball. And that's certainly what we'll be hell bent on doing is finding ways to get our best players the ball, like every team in the league does. And it'll be a cat and mouse game of them trying to make sure they take away what we think we're doing well, and us finding ways to take advantage of what we perceive as weaknesses. So that's pretty, I think, standard process for us. But yeah, my job is to find ways to get the ball to the guys that can help us win.
Thanks, Coach. Thanks.
All right.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
There you go. Titans head coach Brian Callahan meeting with the media ahead of the Week 1 opener Sunday at the Denver Broncos. Got to go prove it. Doesn't that just feel like the theme of the offseason for the Titans? A year after checking all the boxes, the excitement of building around a young quarterback, the moves they made in free agency. Got to go prove it. Got to translate the things they did well in preseason, largely with guys that are not going to be on the field in the regular season for the Titans, and got to carry that over against one of the best defenses in football, against the Denver Broncos with an emerging quarterback, one of the best environments in the NFL. A lot to take away from Brian Callahan's presser, so we'll react to some of that. We will also talk about the most disappointing teams from week 1 of the college football season. That's next on 104.5 The Zone. Gotta go prove it in Denver. The theme of Brian Callahan's Week 1 opening press conference minutes ago with Titans Media. Welcome back. It's the Buck Rising Show, the way that we like it, with no Buck. He is making his way back from Europe. I think he's going to be back tomorrow. I'm not sure. We're going to be broadcasting live from Titans House. I know the newly engaged Robert Walsh is going to be back tomorrow. So can't wait to hear how Robert did it. Without a doubt, shed some tears, proposing to his lovely now fiancée, Cheyenne. So Robert will be back in the mix. I'm Lucas Panzica. Ross and I with you until 1 o'clock. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in to react to what the Titans head coach had to say. If you missed it, a lot of questions about preparing Cam Ward for that environment at Mile High Stadium. And I stand by, Ross. I don't think if you look at every Titans opponent for 2025, if you had to draw up a more difficult combination of environment, defense that you have to go up against, defensive play caller that you have to account for, not in the entire NFL, but on the Titans schedule this season, it's hard to draw up a more difficult combination of those things than the Denver Broncos in Week 1.
You could have at least said, home game, maybe, maybe like, Week 2, Week 3, but no, Week 1 at altitude against Denver.
Right. And to follow that up in Week 2, where you get to be at home, but the LA Rams come to town. Arguably, the two toughest defenses the Titans will see all season. And look, most of these things are based on what happened last season and who is or isn't returning for these defenses. So Week 1 is also a liar, which could also benefit the Titans here. The weirdest things happen in Week 1, right? Could that weird thing be the Titans upsetting the Broncos as 7.5-point dogs on the road in Week 1? I don't know. It's a tall task. And here's the thing. The Titans, if you're to take a step back, the macro look, the big picture, we've talked all offseason ad nauseum about that win total, about best case scenarios, worst case scenarios. Brian Callahan talked in his press conference just now about the sins, big theme of the offseason for them, the self-inflicted negatives that they've been working on. And the Titans coach actually cited some of the numbers from the preseason on what the Titans have done well with a lot of the things that they really struggled with and were among the worst in the league last season. This was the Titans coach.
Yeah, I think, again, this is where we're talking preseason, so it's certainly not predictive, not trying to jump ahead of anything and say that this, because we did this, we're going to continue that process, but it does give us some game analysis and quantitative data from actual football games. I think we were the least penalized offense in the preseason. I think we were in the top 10 least penalized defenses in the preseason. Our biggest issue, I think, numbers-wise, was we had a little more on special teams than we would have liked, but we got to get that improved. But I think we're one of the top 10 least penalized teams in the 3 preseason games. We had 0 fumbles offensively. We held on to the football. We only threw 4 interceptions, so we protected the ball the way we want to, and we extracted it. We had 2 forced fumbles, so that put us, I think, 6th in the league in the preseason. Had 2 interceptions, so we were, I think, about middle of the pack in the turnover and the extraction portion of the ball security. So those things showed up. Didn't have a lot of pre-snap issues. So all the things that we emphasized, it felt like that we got over the course of the preseason games. And again, so it doesn't get taken out of context, I'm not saying that that's going to carry over to the regular season, but it's good to see that what we emphasized showed up in real game action. So happy about those things and good to see those actual data points get verified for us.
So Brian Callahan offers that qualifier towards the end. It doesn't mean these things carry over. It's better to have fewer penalties than the alternative in the preseason, right? It's better to be among the top teams in the preseason in some of the categories you listed, but you're talking about players making those plays like Kendall Brooks, the pick 6 in Atlanta, who was cut from the Titans practice squad in a transaction earlier today, right? You're talking about players that will have nothing to do with this team's success or lack thereof this season. So we'll see what kind of carryover there is. Those are obviously good trends, but the areas where the Titans feel most improved, I'll say the area where they feel most improved, is the area where they've had the most struggles in the last few years, and that's the offensive line. I saw where ESPN did just a comprehensive breakdown with Week 1 on the horizon, and the biggest strength, and this is just a large season preview for the entire NFL. The biggest strength for the Titans is listed as the offensive line. It's crazy to say, but I think a lot of people are there that's as good as they feel about the offensive line, as has been the case in quite some time here. They got to go prove it. Titans last year were second to last in the NFL in turnover margin, better than only the Browns. They were second to last in the NFL in penalties committed per game, better only than the New York Jets. Titans went 3-0 in the preseason last year. So to Callahan's point, that stuff doesn't just naturally carry over. And they get an opportunity to go show it against a team that's trying to make a jump into Super Bowl contention this year in week 1. And how Cam Ward responds is going to be so fascinating after a training camp filled with just these moments where it doesn't seem like anything phases him. The bad stuff is followed up by good stuff, right? And there's no greater challenge that he has seen so far in the NFL than what he's about to see in Denver on Sunday. But just so intrigued to see how the rookie responds to that Broncos defense, to the environment, to all of it in week 1. By the way, his Miami Hurricanes pulling out last night. How about the Miami defense coming in to save the day? Cam Ward's got to be watching that at home. Like, where the hell was that last year?
What was the receiver's name that caught that? I mean,
CJ Daniels.
Catch of the year
It's
already.
catch of the year. I can't imagine there being something to top that. Unbelievable stuff. And Carson Beck did some things. That ball should, that's an interceptable ball that he threw that was rescued by, what has to be catch of the year in 2025.
Quarterback offseason breakup and just comes back ready to go. I mean, tale as old as time.
That's right. Miami, see if they're poised to make a run at the ACC this year. Brian Callahan also updating L'Jarius Sneed and Lloyd Cushenberry's status. I say updating. Basically saying he likes where they are, and we'll see where they are on Wednesday when the injury report comes out. But referencing all the things the Titans struggled with, bottom of the league last year with the turnover margin and penalties, all that is to say, think about the amount of losses the Titans had last year that came down to just a few of those moments, right? The Bears game, the Jets game, like 1 or 2 turnovers in that game were determining factors in the Titans losing those games. So there's a world there where the Titans can marginally increase in those areas and get an extra couple of wins out of it. Just how much of an increase do we see? How much of an improvement in taking care of the football? I think there's a confidence there that Cam Ward instinctively will be able to take care of the football more than Will Levis did last year. He has to go prove it, right? I think there's a feeling that the Titans' offensive line in year 2 under Bill Callahan, with the investment of multiple first-round draft picks, big money acquisitions in free agency, will take a big leap. They have to go prove it. And we're going to see it all come together Sunday afternoon. Titans and Broncos, of course, you can hear it right here, courtesy of Titans Radio. We will have a lot more Titans talk throughout the course of the week. Femi Oladejo will join the show tomorrow. By the way, this upcoming weekend, Hattie B's, we are fueled, of course, by the best hot chicken in the world, Hattie B's, is doing a special on HattieB.com. You get a bucket of chicken Thursday through Sunday for your football weekend. You order a bucket of chicken online with the promo code football. You get a free quart of whatever side you choose. And they have the best sides in town. Go to HattieB.com. Download the Hattie B's app. You literally get a free dessert simply by doing so. The most disappointing teams of week 1 of the college football season. 615-737-1045. Put it to a poll at Lucas Panzikas where you can go vote. Who had a more disappointing week 1, Alabama or Texas? Because it begins and ends with those two teams. That conversation does. First of all, Arch Manning right now, like if you're a Texas fan, you fear after watching that game because Arch was it was a terrible performance on Saturday. I was about to try to sugarcoat it and say he was off the mark in some areas. It was about as bad of a performance as you could have drawn up, I think, with the expectations placed on him. And I think part of that is Arch Manning sitting for 2 years and only seeing glimpses of him and not transferring, which we never see anymore. And that just builds and builds and builds, and we don't really hear from him, and it continues to build the hype. And none of that's his fault, but the hype was what it was going in against that defense in that environment, and it fell flat. Arch Manning was missing layups, and he made a couple of NFL-level throws, but complemented those with some straight-up misses that were just dreadful. The interception he throws in this game, the gimme on a 3rd and 5 and a gotta-have-it moment for Texas driving down the field. It is a credit to Arch that somehow, despite how poorly he played, Texas had the ball down 7 with a 2-minute drill to try and go tie the game. But Many will say that Arch Manning in Texas had the most disappointing week one. The answer is Alabama. It has to be. Because if you're a Texas fan, you fear after week one that Arch isn't going to live up to the hype, right? The worst case scenarios start to flash, and you worry that he's not going to be good enough to lead you to the national championship this year. If you're an Alabama fan, it's more than that. You're having a full-blown existential crisis right now with what Kalen DeBoer and that team did in the loss at Florida State. Just whipped up front, whipped in areas that Nick Saban teams for so long were so dominant in. And it might not be fair to take every Alabama struggle under Kalen DeBoer and compare it to something that they did at an elite level under Nick Saban, but it's what happens, right? It's like the Traylon Burks thing. Is it fair for Traylon Burks to be held up next to A.J. Brown? No, but it's the reality. You traded A.J. Brown so you could draft Traylon Burks. That's just what it is. Nick Saban left. Kalen DeBoer chose to take the Alabama job and be the guy replacing Nick Saban. So when Alabama's getting dominated up front, when they're getting pushed around, when there's questions of effort, not of talent, but of effort, then yes, we're going to put that up next to Nick Saban and the standard that was upheld for 2 decades almost at Alabama in that era in both of those categories. Alabama was outrushed 230 to 87, 230 rush yards by Florida State. By the way, we all owe Thomas Castellanos an apology, right? All the things he said in the offseason.
What a legend.
Dude backed it up in every way. And Thomas Castellanos, with the most Gus Malzahn quarterback stat line ever against Alabama. For those who forgot, Gus Malzahn was the one calling plays for that FSU offense. Castellanos, 9 of 14, 152 yards, 16 carries, 78 yards, 1 touchdown. That's Nick Marshall in 2013 numbers against Bama. That is Jarrett Stidham numbers in 2017 against Bama. That's Bo Nix numbers in 2019 against Bama. I mean, we can roll through it. Like Bo Nix in 2019, 173 pass yards, 44 rushing, 2 total touchdowns. Right there. Nick Marshall, 97 pass yards, 44 rush yards, 3 total touchdowns in that 2013 game. Castellanos. I don't think you were doing the Llanos at the end of it. 152 yards in the air, 78 on the ground, 1 total touchdown. And they just bullied Alabama up front. And I thought Alabama, when they marched down the field on the opening drive, I thought this was set to be a rout. Before Thomas Castellanos even touched the ball. 87 rush yards for Alabama. Over 50 of those were on that opening drive. Meanwhile, Justice Haynes, the Alabama transfer, is rushing for 150-plus for Michigan over the weekend. Just domination on the line of scrimmage. Things we're not used to. Alabama, dumb penalties, 70 yards in penalties. I heard Josh Pate say this on his show yesterday, that Alabama has not played a game under Kalen DeBoer where they have less penalties than the opponent. Think about that. That's stunning. That's crazy. Watching defenders jogging as they trail a play. Ross, it had me thinking, because on Friday, by the way, my picks from Friday, oh my goodness. Truly. I had Bama covering, they lost. I had Tennessee winning, but not covering, they covered. I had Auburn losing, they won. I had Kentucky losing. I had Texas winning. I had LSU losing. Not a banner day. Not a banner day. But last year had me so high on Alabama this year because I know how talented they are. And now I'm feeling like I'd misinterpreted the whole thing. Because last year, you had those moments that reflected the Nick Saban era. The performance at home against Georgia, building that first half lead in this game that's billed to be this huge matchup between SEC contenders. And I know Georgia had the crazy comeback and just the wildest game of the college football season, and Bama ended up pulling it out. But those were Nick Saban glimpses, right? And then the LSU game, even more so. Late in the season, essentially a playoff eliminator. Loser picks up their 3rd loss and is done. Supposed to be a good game. It's in Baton Rouge, and Alabama just routs them. Just Jalen Milroe runs all over that LSU defense. And I remember watching that and thinking, that is something a Nick Saban team would do. Dominate physically and just put the game to bed in the first half. How many games under Nick Saban did we go into top 10, top 5 matchups where you thought, okay, here we go. Somebody's going to test this Alabama team, and then it's over by the third quarter. There were top 10 matchups between Tennessee and Alabama where that was the case. I think back to Mississippi State being the number one team in the country with Dak Prescott and going into Tuscaloosa and just getting whipped. And they did that last year with Kalen DeBoer on the sideline at LSU. So you saw those glimpses, but then you also saw the Vanderbilt game, the Oklahoma game, the bowl game against Michigan. And I think I might have interpreted that the opposite way, where Kalen DeBoer is very well equipped to uphold that standard at Alabama, but there's some cracks there, some transitional things that happen in the first year of a coach resetting a culture. Okay. I thought year two, you're going to see those cracks kind of wiped over. And it might have been the opposite, Ross. I'm starting to think, was last year, all the good moments from last year, were those moments the residuals from Nick Saban, and the cracks that we saw more of an indication of what happens under Kalen DeBoer? Because these are things, these issues that Alabama showed on Saturday, these are not talent issues. They're not scheme issues. When you're talking about disciplinary issues, physicality issues, effort issues, that has Bama fans in a full-blown existential crisis, rather than Texas fans who went up against probably the best defense in the country. By the way, hat tip to Matt Patricia, who called a hell of a game for that Ohio State defense. And lost. And were poor on offense. And Arch Manning was bad. And he was missing receivers. But when you consider the context of both games, it's not close. Alabama had, by far, the most disappointing week one of any team in college football. And Bama fans are talking about Kalen DeBoer's buyout after week one of year two. Emmett on the F&M Bank chat where you can hang out, 104.5 The Zone TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, says Alabama is normal now, thanks to Nick Saban leaving and the portal. Glenn points out that Lee Corso called all the wins. Did you see this?
I did. That was incredible.
His last 6 picks. Perfect.
Was there a fix, you think, or just Corso being Corso?
Well, there was no doubt he was going to put on the Ohio State mascot,
100%.
Right, with the full circle moment of being back in Ohio Stadium. I will say, Lee Corso, you know what his national championship pick was?
What was it?
It was LSU.
That's right, man.
Winners on Saturday. We'll see. Corso going with FSU, his alma mater, or the only one to pick Florida State to beat Bama. Poetic stuff. So I don't know if you're an Alabama fan, how you can, I don't know how you're coping today with some of the things that you saw on Saturday.
Did you see what Johnny Manziel said?
No.
Bad job on me. Should have got this audio beforehand, but he was on Club Shay Shay with Shannon Sharp and Chad Ochocinco. And, obviously Johnny Manziel has maybe the most famous win for someone against Alabama in college football history. He said that he thinks that teams don't fear Alabama anymore. And he talked about in the Saban era how there is a level of fear you have going into that game to where we're playing Alabama. Like, this is going to be, it's that kind of game. We got to be on our A game. And he just basically said, I don't see teams, fearing Alabama anymore. They don't walk into that matchup and think, oh, shoot, we're playing Bama. It's like, we can go win this thing now.
They go to Georgia in 3 weeks. They go to Wisconsin in 2 weeks. But you're right.
I think they host Wisconsin.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. They beat the brakes off Wisconsin on the road last year. Their road trips this year include Georgia, South Carolina, Auburn.
Tough.
You're not going to be able to put that film on from the Florida State game and see a team that strikes fear into your heart. It's not going to happen. I was stunned to watch that from Alabama up front, the physical domination, and I didn't even think Ty Simpson played poorly. So it's about as concerning a takeaway as you can have if you're a Bama fan, right? That it's not that Ty Simpson made a mistake late. It's not that Thomas Castellanos had this incredible performance where he just lit the world on fire. It's not. You just got bullied. And that's the last thing that I thought was going to happen. By the way, what a wild drunk ride it has been for Florida State fans, man. Like, how do you even process the last 2 years of a fever dream that is Florida State football?
That senior class that just graduated has to be like, man.
They've gone through some stuff, man. In 10, 15 years, those kids are good. Man, let me tell you about my days when I was at Florida State. 13-0, undefeated season, snubbed from the playoff, followed up by the 2-10, horrific showing, and then whatever's going to happen in 2025. But to start it like that, I mean, that's quite the that's quite the carousel that FSU fans are on these last couple of years.
Just one more thing on the Bama fear factor. I mean, now teams are seeing too, and I'm not saying every team that they play is going to have a player publicly call out Alabama, but when you're another player on their schedule or another team on their schedule and you see Florida State's quarterback call out Alabama and then walk the walk and beat them in dominating fashion, it's like, man, why can't we do the same thing, honestly? I don't care if it's at home or if it's in Bryant-Denny. Why can't we do the same thing?
Bama hosting Vanderbilt October 4th. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. We'll get to your phone calls, and ESPN, their FPI, the Football Power Index, simulated every result of the NFL season. We don't have to play the games. ESPN telling us what's going to happen, and you're going to be surprised at what they have for the Titans. That's next.
Game on. Week 1 starts now, and every touchdown brings you closer to a payout with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. This isn't just football. It's first touchdown fireworks, anytime TD rushes, and live bets that ride every momentum shift. We've got Bill Belichick's first game as the head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels, and he's an underdog at home. You can get the Tar Heels at plus 3.5 on DraftKings Sportsbook. The over-under set at 56.5. The Tar Heels on the money line at plus 136. At DraftKings, every play is your next shot to win. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789. 21 plus, Tennessee only. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. NFL Sunday Ticket offer for new subscribers only and auto renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use excluded. Restrictions apply. Additional NFL Sunday Ticket terms at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday Ticket/terms. Limited time offer.
ESPN has simulated the entire 2025 NFL season. They did it. The answers to the test are right here in front of us. Their football power index ran 4,000 simulations to determine what is absolutely going to happen in 2025. You're going to be very surprised at where the Titans ended up. 615-737-1045 is the number, though. We go back to the phones as Dougie in White House wants to continue the conversation on Florida State's Week 1 win. Hey, Dougie.
How's it going?
Great, man. What you got?
So nobody wanted to give Florida State a chance, did they?
Nope.
Florida State was supposed to lose this game. They were supposed to get dogged out, right? Alabama was supposed to cover and some.
Yep.
So I just want to know, where's that bandwagon out now? Florida State, baby, go no.
I mean, you get to do that today, Dougie. You get to do that to every Bama fan in your life today.
Do we have any proof that Dougie's not a bandwagon?
We don't have proof, but, I'm a trusting person. I'll trust Dougie in White House on this one. If you're an Alabama fan, what reason for optimism can you have after that, right? Just that the physicality will improve when you get into SEC play? The toughness, the effort, the discipline, that's all going to get better as the season goes on? It could. It could. This could be a wake-up call. Like, they're college kids, all of those things. But Florida State fans get to flex today as Mike Norvell, once again, just puts together a team in the portal, and the quarterback, Thomas Castellanos, backs up every word. And FSU's got to keep doing it. College football, it does pain me to say this, but college football in the state of Florida does feel back. With Florida State, Miami a top 10 team. Florida has high hopes this year. We didn't learn anything about the Gators in week 1 against Long Island University, but the best part, too, they all play each other. All three play each other at one point or another, which we had kind of gotten away from. So that is certainly good to see.
I'll tell you what, too, Bama plays UL Monroe next week, and I don't think anyone's looking at that game from an aspect of they may lose, because I don't think they will. But people are going to be watching that game to see how it goes and how they, I'm going to say win, because I think they're going to win. But how does it look? Does Bama look, does Bama win by a few scores and it looks kind of shaky, or does Bama look like Bama and win by 50-60?
Are you too young to remember that 2007 Bama Louisiana Monroe game?
Yeah,
Year one of Nick Saban, Alabama lost to Louisiana Monroe at home.
Yeah.
And they were still, getting the stink of the Mike Shula era out of their program. Year one, and Bama went 6-6. Literally year 2, they're in the SEC championship. But people are going to be bringing up that game, though, going in. So we'll see how they bounce back. Where do you think, Ross, ESPN's Football Power Index has the Titans in this 2025 NFL season simulation?
Record-wise?
Record-wise.
I'm a toss-up between 5 or 6. I'll go 5-12.
How about 9-8? And not just 9-8. 9-8 and in the playoffs. Not just 9-8 and in the playoffs, Ross. ESPN's FBI has the Titans 9-8 in the playoffs and winning in the wild card round to go to the divisional round.
Tell me more.
They have the Titans as one of the final 8 teams in the NFL this season. Now, I'm going to say this on the front end. They also have both Eagles and Chiefs missing the playoffs. So take that for what it's worth.
There's ESPN for you.
This is their Football Power Index analytical simulation of the upcoming season. They ran it over 4,000 times. This is what they came up with. But here's the Titans portion. The blurb is, Colts win AFC South, Titans earn wild card. Seth Walder writes, even in a season when the Chiefs and Eagles missed the playoffs, what happened in the AFC South turned heads. Somehow, Colts coach Shane Steichen unlocked the 2022 version of Daniel Jones, leaning on the legs of the former Giants QB, while Lou Anarumo and the new-look secondary turned around the defense. The result, a 10-7 record and playoff berth. He continues, but the real AFC South story was the red-hot start of Cam Ward and the Titans. Tennessee began the season 9-3 as Ward took the league by storm. Began the season 9-3. He was the talk of the NFL through 13 weeks and had a lock on the Offensive Rookie of the Year race. But the Titans proceeded to rattle off a 5-game losing streak as the league caught up to the rookie quarterback, and Tennessee limped into the playoffs with a 9-8 record. While the Colts stole the division from the Titans, Tennessee was able to turn the tables in the wild card round. The result, A 34-13 blowout in Tennessee's favor at Lucas Oil Stadium. How about that?
How do you say that without there's a laugh?
That's the last thing I expected when I opened this thing up, man. And again, take it for what it's worth. It's an analytical simulation. They do this every year. It predicted the Vikings to go 4-13 last year, okay? Like, I'll add that. They've gotten stuff right. They've gotten stuff horribly wrong. But 9-3 to open the season. So, naturally, you pull up the Titans schedule, and you look for those 9 wins.
I just have so many questions. I mean, forget the Titans, too, for a second. The Colts dominating with Vanilla Vic and his legs leading the team.
There's a lot there.
And then somehow we lose 5 straight to end the season and just waltz into the wild card and just dominate Indy, too.
What's the more unlikely scenario? That the Titans win 9 regular season games and a playoff game, or that both the Eagles and Chiefs miss the postseason? What's more unlikely?
I think the Eagles and Chiefs, I would say, because that's 2 teams compared to 1.
That's both two Super Bowl teams.
Super Bowl teams.
So, I agree with you, but it's close, man. Like, if you to say both is so extreme.
I mean, unless like Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts like get in horrible accidents or get injured, I just see no way where that happens.
Especially in the case of the Eagles and an NFC that's just begging for somebody, with the Lions losing what they lose. Just NFC feels like it's begging for somebody to challenge the Eagles. Meanwhile, the Chiefs are going to be in a good division this year. I'm legitimately intrigued by the AFC West with the Chargers and Broncos. But
do we have time for you to say the 9 wins that they're giving us this season?
Let me see here. I don't think they tell you which games they're winning. They just tell you the records, and the only scores they give are the playoff scenarios. By the way, they have the Bills winning the Super Bowl. They have the Bills beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the Super Bowl.
Bake show.
This is an analytical simulation, but there is kind of this little mini trend of wanting to hop on the Titans as this worst to first candidate, I think, of Cam Ward. And I think that's just because there's not really another rookie quarterback to latch onto like that. Where you have Tyler Shuck in New Orleans, he's not starting. It's Spencer Rattler's job, and the Saints, I think, are, by consensus, expected to be the worst team in the league this year. This simulation has them as the worst team in the league by the end of the season. You have Jackson Dart in New York. He's not going to start week 1. I expect the shouts to start him will grow louder and louder as the season goes on. But Cam Ward's really only that guy that you have to latch onto. So you've seen some of that. You've seen some of, hey, watch out for Cam Ward, because people are trying to be the ones to predict like the Commanders of 2025. Meanwhile, we understand the limitations. The Titans understand the limitations. You've heard Mike Borgonzi and Chad Brinker talk about the work there still is to be done on this roster. But, I had to do a double take on this simulation. You heard it here first.
Titans go in the playoffs, go in the divisional round. How about that?
According to Seth Walder's ESPN FPI. So the Titans, while we don't know what's going to happen this year, the early indications are that they've made an upgrade at the quarterback position. Have the Vols done the same? We'll discuss it next on 104.5 The Zone.
Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Ross Johnston. Week 1 kicked off this past weekend. The Tennessee Volunteers dominated Syracuse, winning 45-26 in Atlanta. Quarterback Joey Aguilar went 16 of 28 for 247 yards and 3 touchdowns, while also rushing for 34 yards. The Vols rushed for 248 yards on the day and tallied 5 sacks, as well as a defensive score, and cornerback Colton Hood was named the SEC Defensive Player of the Week. Vanderbilt defeated Charleston Southern 45-3, and quarterback Diego Pavia went 20 of 25 for 275 and 3 touchdowns, as well as rushing for 44 yards. Other notable scores: number 1 Texas lost 14-7 at number 3 Ohio State. Number 8 Alabama lost 31-17 at Florida State. Number 4 Clemson lost at home 17-10 to the number 9 LSU Tigers, and number 6 Notre Dame lost 27-24 on the road at number 10 Miami. Week 1 ends tonight with Bill Belichick and the North Carolina Tar Heels hosting TCU in Chapel Hill with kickoff set for 7 p.m. In NFL news, the Dallas Cowboys agreed to an extension with corner Deron Bland for 4 years worth $92 million to keep the former All-Pro in Dallas. The Pittsburgh Steelers also agreed to a 2-year extension with running back Jaylen Warren. Week 1 begins this week in the NFL with the Cowboys facing the Eagles in Philadelphia on Thursday night. The Titans gear up for their first game on Sunday at Denver with kickoff set for 3:05 Central. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Hour 3 of the program, wrapping up a loaded weekend of college football. Glad to be with you on this Labor Day Monday. Lucas Panzica hanging out until 1 o'clock. Ross Johnston on the controls. Buck and Burt will be back at it tomorrow as we broadcast live from Titans House as we team up with the Tennessee Titans to throw a free block party at the immersive new Nissan Stadium Experience Center, Titans House, which is located in Germantown. So come by, hang out, stop by anytime from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. We'll all be broadcasting live. You'll get a behind-the-scenes look at the new stadium. Special guests will be making appearances throughout the day. Free parking as well. Looking forward to seeing all of you guys there as we'll continue the conversation and preview Week 1 for the Titans against the Broncos and continue to react to Week 1 of the college football weekend, which wraps up tonight. Bill Belichick's North Carolina Tar Heels against Sonny Dykes and TCU. And we remember Sonny Dykes was the first coach to be opposite Deion Sanders on a Division I college football sideline, or an FBS sideline, I should say. So looking forward to seeing that tonight. Ross, it is rare as we react to Tennessee's 45-26 win over Syracuse and all the takeaways from Joey Aguilar's performance, how poorly Nico Iamaleava played in response for UCLA. It is rare that I fall victim to Vol Twitter. These are my people. And I got over the weekend. At Lucas Panzica on Twitter. Tell me if you disagree with what I put out there on Saturday. This was towards the end of the game, before Nico stunk it up for UCLA. I said Joey Aguilar is not a more talented quarterback than Nico Iamaleava, but he might be a much better fit for the offense.
I don't see a problem with that.
Man, I got just dragged across the face of the earth by Tennessee fans on this one. Oh, big time. Oh. I don't think I've ever been ratioed by my own fan base. Not yet, at least. But I'm going to stand by that because this discussion now becomes, did Tennessee upgrade at the quarterback position? Which is an insane thing to even have floated out there even a week ago, right? Or a month ago. Or whenever this stuff went down. When Tennessee ended up with Joey Aguilar in that spot, as opposed to Nico Iamaleava, the 5-star, all the money attached to him, the hype around Nico. But after watching that game on Saturday, that's the natural overreaction, is to say Tennessee has upgraded at the quarterback position after Joey Aguilar does something that Nico never did against a Power 4 opponent. Nico Iamaleava at no point last year against an opponent that was not UT Chattanooga or you name whatever payday school, Kent State, right, where Tennessee hung 70+. Against a Power 4 opponent, Tennessee's offense did not at any point have the tempo, the rhythm, the downfield passing threat, and accuracy on that 73-yard bomb to Braylon Staley alone that they displayed on Saturday. The primary concerns with this offense were obviously Joey Aguilar. How will he replace Nico Iamaleava? And how does Tennessee replace Dylan Sampson, on top of other things, right? The lack of depth at the wide receiver position, moving parts and pieces on the offensive line. For week one, they passed all of those tests to where we're talking about a defense that's getting hit with injuries right now as the primary concern before we learn more information that we can factor in as we talk about this team this season. By the way, not great news on the injury front that Tennessee defensive lineman Jackson Moy will be out against ETSU next week. You hope, if you're a Tennessee fan, that is a precautionary measure as Georgia comes to town in 2 weeks. But an even bigger blow, Ricky Gibson, the cornerback, reportedly will be out for an extended period of time as he left the game in the first half on Saturday. Now, true freshman Ty Redmond played well in his place, but Tennessee now is down its top two corners in Jermod McCoy and Ricky Gibson. McCoy still recovering from the ACL tear in January. We'll see what that means, but extended period of time makes it feel like more than 2 games.
Are you worried about David Sanders at all? I feel like that news came out pretty late.
It came out of nowhere. Yeah, literally Saturday morning we find out. So apparently all the reports were, VolQuest was on this as well, that he had picked up a little injury on Wednesday and was planning to play, but the medical advice kind of at that last moment was, maybe he shouldn't go. So he didn't go. Jesse Perry starts at right tackle, played really well. And, you got a chance to see the contingency plan. And Tennessee was able to bully Syracuse up front. Tennessee will play much better defensive fronts than Syracuse throughout the course of the season. So we'll see if David Sanders Jr. is able to come back into the fold next week. But to the point of the quarterback discussion, can't both things be true? Can't it be true that Nico Iamaleava has a higher talent ceiling than Joey Aguilar, has more natural athleticism, has better arm talent, has the measurables on his side, all of the things that determine whether or not you're a 5-star player, a 4-star player, or a 3-star player, or in Joey Aguilar's case, a player coming out with no offers, having to start at the JUCO level. And this is not me trying to denigrate Joey Aguilar in this segment. But can't both things be true? That NFL scouts are paying more attention to Nico Iamaleava and what he could potentially be than they are Joey Aguilar. But Joey Aguilar very well could be, and the earliest returns we have this season back up the theory that he could be a much better fit for this offense. That sort of gunslinger mentality that he brought on Saturday without putting the ball in harm's way. He seems like a player that has that sort of mental makeup and leadership ability that Nico just didn't display at any point last year, and it was a big talking point throughout the course of the offseason. This was Josh Heupel speaking after the game, and I thought this was interesting because Heupel is rarely candid meeting with the media after games. But he got on a bit of a tangent talking about something that more often than not is a cliche, right? The leadership of a team. But given everything that happened in the offseason, I was listening to what Heupel was saying here and not just brushing it off after the 45-26 win over Syracuse.
All we're trying to do is be the best football team on the field every Saturday. Good teams continue to get better. This is the beginning of our journey. We've got a long ways to go. Don't ever take them for granted. Celebrate it, enjoy it in the locker room tonight. And, we get back on Monday. It'll be time to get better. And I think, we got really strong leadership. We really do. It's a locker room full of great, I'm going to call them kids. They're not kids, but great guys. And it's fun being around them. And there's a maturity to them as well. I was talking to a couple of guys, when we were walking to the band afterwards, and they were excited about the win. It's important to enjoy them. Something I didn't do probably young in my career enough. Never take them for granted. And at the same time, it's a group that recognizes, we got to continue to get better. So they continue to have that trait and come into the building with the mindset that they've had, since we started. This team's got a chance to continue to get better.
So Josh Heupel speaking after the win over Syracuse in Atlanta. And look, these are cliche things that you're talking about, right? A locker room that enjoys being together, the leadership aspect. But we pay more attention to these things than maybe we normally would when you hear Miles Kitselman on with 3HL at SEC Media Days talking about there being a lack of a unifying voice on the offensive side of the ball, on the sideline when they're coming off the field after 2 or 3 and outs, right? Where nobody's bringing the group together. Nobody has that commanding presence to try and will the football team out of an offensive funk, which they fell into a lot last year. And that was another thing about Saturday. Watching Tennessee go pedal to the metal in the first quarter, bombs away down the field. We haven't seen that. How many scoreless first halves did Tennessee football have last year? So I take that into account because this team does feel like it's a little more together after the Nico situation. And if they can get that out of the Nico departure, plus a guy that fits better into this offense, who's a more experienced player, he's seen more than Nico, and again, might not have the arm talent, the athleticism that Nico possesses from a pure trait standpoint, but for whatever reason can just make this offense go in a way that Nico didn't at any point last year, it has you asking that legitimate question. Did Tennessee find itself a better solution at quarterback? And does it provide more context on what kind of quarterback can better fit this offense? Because you know who else is more talented than the guy who ran this offense to its capacity so far, Hendon Hooker? Joe Milton. Milton and Nico both had higher talent profiles than Hooker. Neither of them could take this offense where it needed to go. And Milton, so far, is having a better NFL career than Hendon Hooker is. Joe Milton, in fact, did Joe Milton make the Cowboys?
I believe so.
I know he was in a battle with, who's the other backup there? I had it just the other day. I'm not sure if they kept 3 or if he made the Cowboys roster as one of 2. Either way, Cowboys traded a 5th rounder for him, right? Joe Milton backed up Drake May last year.
He is on the roster.
He's on the roster.
I do forget as well who the third guy was.
I literally looked this up the other week. So, all that to say, there just could be something about this offense that it's hard to put a finger on in terms of what kind of quarterback can really make it run. Could Joey Aguilar have some of those things that Hendon Hooker kind of had that Milton and Nico didn't have as much of despite having a higher talent profile? I don't know. It's one game. Again, it's one game. We've seen Tennessee win in Atlanta in week 1, and everybody put on that leather helmet after the game with the celebration, and then followed up with 5-7 in 2012, and followed up with 4-8 in 2017 under Butch Jones. Powder needs to stay dry on this, but it's something to think about after watching the way Aguilar ran the operation after just a few months of being on campus and absorbing the offense. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. SEC Michael Bratton of That SEC Podcast will join us in the upcoming segment. We'll also talk about the best QB performances from week 1 of the college football season next on 1045 The Zone. The best QB performances of college football's week one. For me, it really boils down to about two for us to talk about here, but there's much to discuss there. Sean Payton speaking today on the Denver Broncos opening the season at home against the Titans. Here was his quote on game planning for Cam Ward making his first NFL start. Payton said, quote, "You have a limited exposure in the preseason with him. Then you would go back and look at his college tape in Miami to get a feel for not only arm strength, but how does he handle pressure? How does he handle his zone? We do a pretty in-depth study. It's normal when you play teams early in the season maybe to not have all the information you might have when you play a team in week 8 or 9. So we'll see how much the Titans can use that to their advantage, a lack of Cam Ward's sample size for that Broncos defense that was among the best in the NFL last year. Brian Callahan, meeting with the media earlier today, said Lloyd Cushenberry and L'Jarius Sneed are progressing. He feels good about where they are, and we'll find out more when the injury report comes out on Wednesday. You can go back and listen on the podcast to the Titans head coach press conference at the top of hour 2, the Buck Rising Show, wherever you get your podcast. Buck and the newly engaged Robert Walsh will be back tomorrow as we broadcast live from Titans House in Germantown. So looking forward to that. 615-737-1045 is the number for you to jump in. We are fueled, of course, by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, the best in the world. Hattie B's doing a promotion this upcoming weekend starting Thursday. You go to HattieB.com, order a bucket of hot chicken. You get a free quart of a side. I suggest the pimento mac and cheese, but whatever works for you, for your football watching. Mike Bratton, SEC Mike, set to come up in a few minutes, but let's go to the phones with one of our favorites, Sue-Ann, up next. Hey, Sue-Ann.
Hey, Lucas. Thanks for taking my phone call. So it was refreshing to watch the game and, you know, all the controversy about, you know, Aguilar. What's going to do it for me is, does he have the ability to take us to the promised land on the road with the big games? I'll hang up and listen.
Thanks for the call, Sue-Ann. Always appreciate it. It's been something in the Heupel era that has escaped Tennessee. Winning that game on the road against a team that you're not necessarily favored against, right? Against a Georgia under the lights, winning in Tuscaloosa against Alabama. And when you look at a fairly manageable schedule for Tennessee this year, you can't say an easy schedule when you have Georgia, Alabama, and Florida all on it, but manageable. When you look beyond those three opponents, all are winnable games for Tennessee. Like the path to 9-3 is there, especially after watching Saturday, if only because of the schedule and the lack of playing a Texas or an LSU or one of these teams. Tennessee should be taking care of business in these games, especially if they can carry over what we saw on offense and if they can stay healthy on defense, which they picked up some unfortunate knocks on Saturday on that side of the ball. But you're right, Sue-Ann. Tennessee goes to Tuscaloosa this year. They go to Gainesville this year. At the end of the season, two places that have been an absolute nightmare for Tennessee football in the 21st century, and that has yet to be reversed in the Heupel era. Ryan is up next. Hey, Ryan.
What's going on, buddy?
Hey, man, what you got?
I think that Derek Mason needs to be fired at NTSU after that lackluster of a performance against Austin Peay. It was pathetic. There was no enthusiasm, no parade drive. There was nothing. I mean, he's all talk, no action. Derek Mason needs to be fired effective immediately, if you ask me.
Thanks for the call, Ryan. An MTSU call on this Labor Day Monday. Yeah, Austin Peay, man, making a statement against Middle Tennessee State. 34-14, the final. Outgained the Blue Raiders 343-153. Ramon and Will had Jeff Ferris on the show. So go back and listen to that on the podcast. Some good stuff there from the Austin Peay head coach trying to reverse fortunes up there in Clarksville. But not a good start to the year for Derek Mason's Blue Raiders. It was a good start to the year for Garrett Nussmeier, who started a little slow in this game in Clemson. Battle of the Death Valleys, Battle of the Tigers, all of the things. And Garrett Nussmeier found his way in the second half while that LSU defense clamped down. This was a reverse of what I thought this game was going to be. I thought Clemson was going to have the advantage up front. Yet it was LSU that held Clemson to 32 rush yards on the game. It was LSU that held the ball for 37 minutes of this game, that held Clemson to 3 of 13 on third down. Now, Clemson lost Antonio Williams, their star receiver, early in this game, but still, Garrett Nussmeier acquitted himself very well on a night where his SEC colleague, for lack of a better phrase, was incredibly disappointing. Arch Manning dominated a lot of the conversation from the opening weekend of the college football season. And I'm not ready to pile on and say that Arch Manning is going to come crashing down relative to the hype surrounding him, but it's hard to imagine a worse start for him. You do have to understand what he was up against. Matt Patricia had a phenomenal day calling that Ohio State defense. And that's really, I understand why we're talking about Arch after that game, but I feel like we should be talking more about Ohio State's defense after that game. And that Ohio State, if Julian Sayin can grow into the season at quarterback, didn't make the mistakes that Arch made. He wasn't great, right? I said last week that Sayin's got an opportunity to be the guy that everybody's talking about after this game. When going in, everybody wants it to be Arch. Didn't quite happen that way, right? Where it's a 14-7 ball game, low scoring, and Ohio State is just stifling Texas. I just couldn't believe the amount of gimmies that Arch missed in this game. I couldn't believe it. 17 of 30, 170 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. The gimmies mixed in with some of the eye-popping throws. The touchdown pass that got Texas back into the game was kind of this perfect encapsulation, 32 yards to Parker Livingston, of everything that you love about Arch Manning as a prospect. He had an NFL throw on that last drive in the 2-minute drill to try to tie it up. But yet still, Arch, on aggregate, had the worst starting debut of the college football weekend. Like Ty Simpson played better than Arch Manning. Alabama didn't. Alabama was whipped more than Texas was whipped. And maybe the biggest indictment on Arch from this game, Ross, is the way it played out. Texas outgained Ohio State 336-203 in this game. It's not like they weren't moving the football. Texas had 16 first downs in this game, 5 more than Ohio State, and Arch couldn't do something with it.
They just couldn't finish drives. And I will say, like, one thing, just in defensive Arch, we talk about Cam Ward, being thrown to the Lions Den week 1 going to Denver. I mean, Texas is obviously a very good team, ranked number 1 preseason, but the Arch was put in arguably the toughest situation in week 1 going against that defense. I think Caleb Downs is the best player in college football, so they've got, one of the top defenders on their team as well as all the other talented pieces. But, yeah, it was interesting. He just, that first throw of the game, that boot, guy wide open, just threw it at his feet. But then later in the game, like you mentioned, that 2-minute drill, he had a whole shot, and I don't know if there was a better throw all weekend from a college quarterback. So it was an ironic, kind of just weird game 1 for Arch.
Well, but I mean, this kind of summed it up, right? That shot that you just mentioned, unbelievable throw, like a rope across the body down the left sideline for a huge first down. Just a couple plays later, there's a 3rd and 5. They're near midfield, right? They obviously have to move the chains. It's their last chance to go tie the game. Literally, like 2 plays later, where he misses a wide open Ryan Wingo coming across a slant over the middle of the field, throws it behind him. And Wingo, he kind of adjusted his body and he's trying to make the catch. And I guess you could say that a player of Wingo's caliber, that's a catch that he could make and maybe should. But this isn't about Ryan Wingo, though. It's about Arch Manning. The ball is behind him. After one of the best throws, to Ross's point, that you will see in the college football weekend, 2 plays later, he followed it up with what should be a gimme on a gotta-have-it 3rd down conversion late in the game and just is behind his receiver, wide open over the middle. That's the kind of day it was for Arch Manning. And you're right. You talk about being thrown into the fire. That's being thrown into the fire. That might be the best defense in college football this year in that environment as they're celebrating the national championship. But here's the thing. While Arch will have a chance to grow into the season and continue to improve, he still has to go to Florida, right? He still has to go into these environments. He goes into Georgia the 3rd to last week of the year. So Arch is still going to play elite defenses and go into hostile environments this season. But to the Arch thing, I would ask this question. What's more likely for Arch Manning in 2025? And maybe we ask Mike Bratton this question when he comes on, the host of that SEC podcast. You might know him as SEC Mike. But what's more likely, that week 1 at Ohio State against that defense led by Matt Patricia, that first start being the guy with all the hype built up, that what we saw Saturday is indicative of what we're going to see the rest of the season? Or is it more likely that Arch Manning is going to grow into this season and be closer to the prospect he's expected to be? Because I tend to think it's the latter more than the former, right? That's what I tend to believe it'll be. We put it to a poll. At Lucas Panzica is where you can go vote. We'll update the polls at the end of the show. The more likely scenario for Arch continues to struggle or has a huge season. Majority of people right now are voting continues to struggle. That's not where I am with Arch Manning. The distinguished gentleman on the F&M Bank chat, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch says Arch will be fine. And there are others that are saying quite the opposite. So we'll see what happens. Do we have SEC Mike? Michael Bratton set to join us here in just a couple of minutes, host of that SEC podcast. Looking forward to hearing his thoughts. His power rankings of the SEC after week one. Drawing some ire, as Mike is one to do with SEC fan bases. Michael Bratton, how are you, my friend? How did those power rankings strike your audience after week one of the college football season? We'll see if we can't get that echo figured out to get Mike in here. I'm looking at him. I'm looking at Michael Bratton, and we'll get his thoughts in here on a lot of discussion from week one of the college football season. Ross, should we try it again? All right, Mike, take two. Do we have you, my friend?
Yes, sir. You got me?
All right. I got you loud and clear. Michael, what is more likely, that Arch Manning continues to struggle this year and shows what he showed Saturday, or that he grows into more of the prospect that we expected?
Yeah, he's going to be just fine. I mean, all the Arch Mania, it was ridiculous. I had a lot of good fun with it, but yeah, I mean, he didn't look good by any means on Saturday, but if Texas doesn't get stuffed on a couple fourth and goals near the goal line, they probably win that game, and the narrative is completely different, and it's the same game from Arch Manning. So, yeah, I'm not too worried about Arch Manning. I didn't think he was God's gift of football before, and I don't even think he's going to the NFL like people assume. I think next year he'll be a lot better.
At Michael W. Bratton is where you can follow him on Twitter. Are Alabama fans talking to you about Kalen DeBoer's buyout yet after that game on Saturday in Tallahassee?
Oh, yeah, and I'm willing to chip in because that was that was the team that I had predicted to win the SEC. Well, they're still undefeated in conference play at least, but yeah, I mean, I think they're lucky to win 8 games this year. Given, I mean, it was just the same old we saw from the Tide last year. Defense was abysmal, and I mean, now all of a sudden the offense is even worse. You don't have Jalen Milroe to blame anymore. Yet it was just kind of the same old. So. Yeah, I don't think he's got long for Alabama. I don't care what his buyout is.
It's hard, right, to come away with any feeling of optimism. Like, what can Alabama fans grab onto other than being one of the most talented rosters in the country? Which I say that like it's just an aside, Mike, but if they're going to put out that sort of effort that they did on Saturday, all these things that were just staples of the Nick Saban era, then I'm not sure what Bama fans have to grab onto. You would almost rather lose because Ty Simpson made a poor decision late, right? Or Thomas Castellanos had this just incredible performance, which wasn't even really the case on Saturday.
And I mean, the biggest storyline was how they were going to shut him up for running his mouth. Yet I think Castellanos is probably the Heisman favorite right now. Now, is he going to win it? I don't think so. But I think after week one, I thought his performance was as impressive as anybody, considering the game and the stage and all that. So, yeah, I mean, what does Alabama have to hang their hat on? Well, maybe they can pull a Billy Napier and throw the true freshman Keelan Russell out there, he's supposed to be the next God's gift of football. Throw him out there. Maybe he can save DeBoer's job. That may be the only silver lining, the last card he's got to play is maybe they throw him out, and then in the second half they kind of catch fire, and then there's optimism again for year 3.
Well, you've got Alabama second to last in your SEC power rankings after week one, next to only lowly Kentucky that had to scrape by the Toledo Rockets at home over the weekend. LSU topping your power rankings. Not really close, right? LSU, the most impressive team in the SEC over the weekend?
Yeah, without a doubt. Going on the road, beating a top 10 opponent, not just beating them. I thought they were significantly better than Clemson. And anybody that missed it, heck, they robbed LSU of a touchdown. They took one off the board that I thought was clearly a touchdown. So really, I honor that as a 2-touchdown win on the road against Clemson. Well, I figured Clemson was overrated, but I thought they'd win this game because that's what Clemson does, or excuse me, LSU does. They lose in the opener, credit Brian Kelly and everybody for shutting me up. I mean, LSU, just based on 2025, there's no doubt they're the most impressive team in the conference so far.
Well, football's back when we're talking about what is and isn't a catch. I mean, we saw it in the games yesterday, and you mentioned that Barryon Brown touchdown wiped away. Local guy, Pearl Cone High School, the Kentucky transfer. I don't know how you can't look at that, and it blew my mind that was ruled back. They were able to overcome it anyway. SEC Mike with us, Michael W. Bratton, where you can follow him on Twitter, the host of that SEC podcast. Did week one change anything, Mike, about your preseason expectations for Tennessee, watching what they did against Syracuse?
I mean, not really, because I didn't really have much respect for Syracuse coming into the game. Now, I thought Tennessee looked wildly impressive, and at times Joey Aguilar looked good. Still, I mean, if you're taking off the Tennessee glasses here, he's inconsistent as a passer. That's kind of what we assumed. There was a lot of throws to be made. Maybe that was just game one in the Josh Heupel system, and they had a lot of defensive injuries. If anything, that's the big takeaway. It sounds like Ricky Gibson's going to be out for a while. Still don't have Gerard McCoy back, so both those guys are expected to miss the Georgia game. It's a potential huge blow because coming out of this game, maybe I don't know about you, Lucas, but I'm hearing from a lot of Tennessee fans that are optimistic now that they could beat Georgia, and I'm not. I had it at 0% before Syracuse. I have it at about 5% that Tennessee could win. So maybe I have been a little bit altered by week one.
Hey, there you go, the 5% bump from a 45-point performance. Yeah, I mean, I think Tennessee fans are in a place where, yes, you acknowledge there were some misses there, right? And misses on some gimmies, the screen passes. There were a couple drops, too. There were a couple of those plays where could the ball have been better? Yes. Could the receiver or should the receiver have caught it? Yes, where both things can be true. But I just think, Mike, when Tennessee fans saw him uncork that 73-yard deep ball to Braylon Staley, and if we're being honest with ourselves, Tennessee's offense hasn't done something like that. They haven't run with that sort of tempo against a Power 4 opponent really since that 2022 season. Then you get caught up in that, and it's all complemented, Mike, by turning on your TV late at night, and Tennessee fans hate watching Nico struggle through that blowout loss to Utah in front of a half-empty stadium.
Right, and I think if nothing else, Lucas, what we do is, Tennessee, obviously, for years and years, you just didn't know what you were going to get. You get optimistic, and then the season would get here and be like, oh, same old Vols, right? Well, now I think it is the same old Vols, but in the different direction. I think you just know what you're getting from Josh Heupel and company, and that's one of the best coaches in the conference. He's not yet clearly on Kirby Smart's level. I don't think anybody is, but you look around some of the better coaches, Brian Kelly, a Lane Kiffin, a Josh Heupel, and maybe even to a degree Kirby Smart. You know what you're getting from these programs, and at Tennessee you're going to get running the ball, you're going to get defense, and you're going to get explosive passing. At least that's what you hope you're getting, and it looks like they got it again with Joey Aguilar. So Tennessee's got nothing to be concerned about, I don't think. I think they're going to be very good and probably better than I anticipated in the preseason.
And a manageable schedule to boot as well. I feel like there are some apologies that are owed after week one, Mike, whether it's Thomas Castellanos, the Florida State quarterback who you mentioned, or Hugh Freeze, who quietly, it happened Friday, right? So it gets a little bit buried after the Saturday slate, and we've got game Sunday and another one tonight. Hugh Freeze quietly, after an offseason full of negativity, brought on by himself, I'll add, just runs all over that Dave Aranda defense. And I don't know that Auburn fans could have expected a better outcome in the first week of the season on the road.
Right, and I'll say this, Lucas, I was leading the bandwagon of, that guy's a fraud, he should be fired. I'm still kind of there. But, hey, credit to them. They whooped Baylor, 2-touchdown win in quite literally maybe the best win of the Hugh Freeze era so far at Auburn. And I'm sure he got in a round of 18 on Saturday. He earned it by winning on Friday. So credit to Hugh Freeze. And really, the one guy I am rooting for down there more than probably anybody is Jackson Arnold, the way things went at Oklahoma. He looked like he's still got a ways to come as a passer, but believe it or not, he currently leads the SEC in rushing, and that's Auburn's quarterback. So, I liked what I saw from Jackson Arnold, at least in that aspect of his game.
Mike Bratton of that SEC podcast. Televisions, Netflix's Michael Bratton. Part of that docuseries, Mike, Any Given Saturday. What was the process like of putting that together with the Netflix crews?
Oh, yeah, that was fun. They flew me down to Charlotte. I was telling the story on my podcast recently. They flew me first class. I've never flown first class in my life. They gave me free drink vouchers it was a 45-minute flight. So, I don't want to make it sound like it was that big of a deal. And then on the way back row, no drink, get back in there. I think they were trying to butter me up before the shoot, and then it was back to normal life after it.
They made good use of you and then sent you back to Nashville. That's fantastic. At Michael W. Bratton is where you can follow him, at that SEC podcast as well. Mike and cousin Shane breaking it all down. The power rankings always sure to make somebody upset each and every week. Mike, appreciate the time, man. We'll catch up soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You got it. Mike Bratton with us on 104.5 The Zone. Man, that is brutal work by Netflix. Are you kidding me? Roll out the red carpet and then just kick him to the back of the plane on the way home.
That's a very professional move by Netflix right there.
Did you watch the Any Given Saturday?
Oh, I did. It was awesome.
It was
Very well
good.
put together.
It was good. I mean, we were talking about it the other day with Josh Payton studio. It wasn't for us, right? It was kind of like explaining the SEC, like, here's Vanderbilt. This is what you need to know about Vanderbilt, okay? Here's this team called Alabama. They usually win a lot, right? But it was entertaining. It was entertaining, and Mike did a good job on it with Andy Staples, Alyssa Lang, other folks that were featured. Bill Belichick will be featured on the sidelines tonight, his college football head coaching debut. We'll talk about it. We'll wrap up the show. Last call for phone calls, 615-737-1045, and we'll finish out with the polls next.
Nothing worse than being insecure about your finances. Trajan Wealth is here to help make sure that you are planning correctly, that you are fortifying your retirement plan, that you are managing your wealth at this point in time responsibly, and that you're being tactical with your investments to make sure that you're maximizing return. Occurrences like inflation, changing economic policies, new laws and interest rates can affect the financial markets in the short term, but it doesn't make sense to keep changing the way that you invest in response to the daily news. Instead, Trajan Wealth will help you review your strategy and make sure that it's right for your goals, your level of risk tolerance, your time horizon, and Trajan Wealth is there to help you decide what to do. 2 locations in Middle Tennessee, Brentwood and Franklin. 615-270-5000 is the number. That's 615-270-5000. The number, or online at TrajanWealth.com. Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. This is a paid advertisement.
Last call for phone call, 615-737-1045 for you to jump in before we update the polls. Loaded show tomorrow. We'll be broadcasting live from Titan's house in Germantown. So come by. There will be free parking. Every show will be there until 6 o'clock. Buck and Bert will be back. We'll learn about Bert's engagement. We have Femi Oladejo live and in person in hour 1. David Ubben talking college football in hour 2. We'll hear from Titans coordinators, meeting with the media as well. So come by. Get to check out an immersive experience of the new Titans Nissan Stadium. Be plenty to do tomorrow as we gear up for week 1. Titans Broncos coming up on Sunday. There is Monday Night Football tonight in the college game, and it's hard to quantify the level of hype there seems to be in Chapel Hill for this North Carolina era of football. They host TCU, 7 p.m. on ESPN. Once again, it is Sonny Dykes and the TCU Horned Frogs that get to introduce an NFL legend to the college game as a head coach. They did it against Deion. I think we all remember that week 1 win by Colorado, stunning the college football world, beating what was then a ranked TCU team on the road. And that TCU team ended up flaming out a year after getting to the national championship game. And Colorado ended up regressing to the mean. Now TCU hits the road to go to North Carolina, a team that has 70 new players on the roster. 70. Gio Lopez, the South Alabama transfer at quarterback. Pete Thamel reporting that it's going to be a star-studded attendance at UNC. Michael Jordan will be in the house. Lawrence Taylor, Mia Hamm, Julius Peppers, Eric Church. So ranging from country stars that are UNC fans to UNC legends to just Hall of Famers that played for Bill Belichick.
And no star being bigger than Bill Belichick's girlfriend.
Jordan Hudson, who has, did you see she trademarked the term gold digger?
She did?
Yeah.
You can trademark that?
Well, I can't remember what the exact context of it was. That was making the rounds. I don't know if that is let's see. They have filed a trademark for the term gold digger with the intention of using it to create a line of jewelry.
I think Kanye might have something to say about that one.
Yeah, right. Well, we'll see. 615-737-1045, last call for phone calls. So we'll see. I think there's a lot of hype built up for the Bill Belichick experience, and the interest level of it is obviously so sky high in terms of just seeing what happens. But I don't think, I say this, at risk of being dead wrong after the charade of an offseason that it was for UNC and Bill and his girlfriend. But I think once the football starts, I don't think it'll be the show, the grand show that it was week to week, that it has been with Deion in Colorado, right? Like when it's like business time for Bill, I feel like he's going to go back to being same boring old Bill. But obviously the results are what is going to be fascinating.
Well, he's not the one to be putting stuff out like a Deion Sanders might.
Right.
I mean, obviously the relationship thing has garnered a lot of attention, and I guess rightfully so. But like you said, once the games get started, I mean, people are just going to be talking football for the most part, and certainly Coach Belichick will be as well.
Last game of week 1 tonight, 7 p.m. on ESPN, UNC and TCU. Looking forward to that.
Who you got?
Oh, let's see. TCU are 3.5-point favorites on the road. Bill's going to win in week 1. I'm going to go with him.
I think Bill wins as well.
That TCU quarterback can play. Josh Hoover's a good player. I know Tennessee tried their damnedest for Josh Hoover to be the replacement to Nico. Not so much Joey Aguilar. But, yeah, I'm going to ride with Bill at home.
Could this be another, like a half hate watch maybe? Not a full hate watch, but like a...
I don't think I'm hate watching Bill Belichick at UNC.
Oh, I meant for Vols fans for Hoover since they didn't get him.
Man, Joey Aguilar just put up 45 points. I don't think Vols fans are hate watching anyone but Nico at the moment. But, I mean, are people hate... I suppose a lot of people will be rooting for Bill's downfall in this. I'm not necessarily. I'm more just, all right, I'm just intrigued to see what happens here.
I want him to be good because I think it makes for a better story for college football.
Yeah. So we'll see. Let's do some polls. Polls, as always, presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
Two Rivers Ford, poll number 1. Who had the more disappointing week 1, Texas or Alabama? 76% voted Alabama to Texas's 24%.
It's Alabama.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, it's not even close.
The offensive line performance against Syracuse was Tennessee's best since when? We only got one response, but they said 2022, which I think is fair.
Just the offensive performance, not the offensive line. But Tennessee has not looked like that in a game against a Power 4 opponent on offense since that 2022 season. It doesn't mean 2025 is going to be 2022. Both of those things can be true.
Lots of good flashes for sure. What is your level of confidence in the Titans' ability to win week 1 in Denver? 5% said high, 29% said cautiously optimistic, 44% said low, and 22% said not going to happen.
Yeah, majority going low. Week 1 is weird, so I suppose if you're going to be playing arguably your toughest week 1 introduction to the NFL for Cam Ward, that's the silver lining of it, is that week 1 can be a liar and strange results happen. But we know what that Broncos defense brings back and the ascension that they believe they're poised to make. It's going to be a challenge for sure for Cameron Ward.
I think it's definitely low, but I can see cautiously optimistic, if things go right, if we catch them off guard.
Clean slate.
It's week 1.
It's an abundance of hope for a new season.
Anything can happen. Those are the polls.
All right. That's the show. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Again, we're going to be at it tomorrow in Germantown. Titans House, 10-1. Buck, Burr, the whole gang will be back together. Looking forward to getting you closer to your week 1 of the NFL season. Enjoy the end of week 1 of the college game tonight. TCU and UNC on your televisions. Cover 2 coming up next. See y'all.
Let's face it, buying a vehicle should be straightforward and stress-free, and that's exactly how Two Rivers Ford has been doing business for decades. This locally owned dealership has a non-commissioned sales team whose only focus is to find you the right vehicle at the right price without the pressure. So you'll actually have a fun car buying experience. Great prices, easy financing, and a non-commissioned sales team. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford.